For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Gym sessions and sweaty summer activities are back, which means more funky smells in your clothes because sweat leaves behind bacteria that causes those hard-to-remove odors. Clorox fabric sanitizer products are ready to zap the stink out of fabrics in your home by getting rid of 99.9% of odor-causing bacteria. Eliminate odors in every load or sanitize fabrics between washes with one of our fabric sanitizer products. Search fabric sanitizer at Clorox.com to learn more. When it counts, trust Clorox. Use as directed.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Scott Norton, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Danny from the NJPWext. On today's show, we'll be reviewing the first 2 nights of the G1 Climax 31, answering listener questions, and covering all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPWext, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit NJPWext.us today for details. Danny, young boy, what's going on, guys?
Not much. I love how you read that spot.
Thank you.
I get chills every time.
Yeah, I guess since this is your first time here, it's your first time actually hearing us do that live.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that that was the case.
Yeah, I know. People are like, you actually reread that every week? And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, because Jeremy puts a lot of like effort, heart, and soul into it,
I can see that.
Well, before we dive into G1 and everything coming up, young boy, do you want to give your update right now?
Yeah, so obviously I haven't been on the show the past couple weeks, and Danny, I'm sorry to do this when you're on the episode. I don't want to step on your funk because we're glad you're here. We're gonna get into the G1 here in just a moment, but kind of just doing a little housekeeping, letting you guys know what's been going on. So Jeremy had mentioned previous weeks that there was like a tragedy or a death that was kind of keeping me from the show. Basically, and some listeners that are connected to me on social media, the limited social media I have kind of know, but my brother actually passed away. What was the most recent holiday?
Labor Day.
Yeah, the evening of Labor Day, he actually committed suicide. And so it's really, really, really tough and detrimental, to our family, and just a really tough, tragic loss. Still something that we're kind of reeling from and trying to get through. Reaching out, getting some help myself for the situation, but, wanted to be here with you guys because, doing the show is actually in a certain way kind of cathartic and therapeutic for me. But just up front, haven't watched the G1, barely, kind of keeping tabs on what's going on with wrestling. But I am aware what's happening with the G1. So this is I'm going to kind of be like color here today. You guys are I'm going to rely on you and Danny as kind of play by play. Throughout this G1 tournament, because it's already starting to go, I will try to get caught up. But, between things with my family, things with my career, it is highly likely that I won't be seeing the entire G1 the way that we do every year. Just kind of want to set that expectation with the audience. You guys know that we literally dredge through, you name it, like World Tag Leagues, Super Junior Tag Leagues, Best Super Junior. It doesn't matter what it is. We literally, every Road to show. This is probably happening, there's never a good time for it, but, obviously this is one of the busiest times of the year for New Japan and for the podcast. But, wrapping my head around devoting full attention to how long are the shows right now? 2.5 hours?
What, the G1 shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like 3 hours.
Yeah, so like wrapping my head around full attention to a 3-hour show, breaking it down, it's been kind of difficult. But, not leaving the show or anything like that. It's just, it's a terrible tragedy for my family. One thing, though, that you guys can do, if you're listening, and I know we ask you guys, download this, rate this, support this, kind of a personal request, because I told my nephew who it was his 13th birthday the other day, and the fact that this happened so close to his birthday to his dad is really, really a terrible thing. He runs a gaming YouTube channel. I don't know if it's good or not, but if you guys, I told him that I would tell people on the show about it because he found out I had a podcast. The way you can subscribe to his channel, it's Fennec. That's FEN_N, the number 3, and then C, Fennec. And I think he's got 2 channels that are under that name. If you guys could give him a subscribe and, maybe write him something nice, I don't know, really would appreciate that.
All right.
And that's it. That's my whole thing.
But, we will have, some great guests, too, to be along this G1 journey. We have Danny here. We'll reach out to some other guests throughout the G1. I know Samson said he wants to pop back in for probably a mid check-in. So, we'll keep running along.
If you guys are out there listening and you guys are contributors or content creators and you'd like to come be on the show, this is the opportune time to come in and be a support. We really would appreciate it.
And one other thing that we got to talk about, like we mentioned last week, our 200th episode is coming up next week. We just got done recording an interview of Rocky Romero that you guys will hear next week on the 200th episode. And we also want you guys to be a part of it, guys. So send in your favorite memories and thoughts of the show in a short audio clip. It doesn't have to be professional audio. Literally pull out your cell phone, get the voice app, whatever voice memo app you have, and just record. It's a quick shout out, favorite memory of the show, just a shout out to the show. And I'm going to put it all together and edit it all together for the 200th episode. So you can send me your audio, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Send it to me by September 25th so I can get it all edited together in time. And it's going to be a great time celebrating 200 episodes.
Yeah, it's going to suck if we've had this many listeners and contributors over the years and all that, and then we don't have good audio. So do us a favor. Just leave us a 30-second clip. I've noticed Danny hasn't done it, so I'm putting him on blast.
Because my clip would be like 2 hours long. I can't pick one moment, guys. Come on.
But you guys just, like you said, literally it's as simple as like jump on your voice recorder, give us a 20, 30-second, 1 minute recording, just and then we're going to chop them all together and play it as part of the show. And you don't have to be, you can literally just be a listener. If you've listened to the show and you appreciate the show, just give us a shout out and we will include you, which we want to. So
nice. And then next order of business, anytime we have a first-time guest on the show, we have to do a little, New Japan background on them. So, Danny, when did you start watching New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Ooh. I'm old, so I started watching early 90s probably. And I remember seeing Liger in the magazines and then in WCW. And I just kind of kept following it, getting tapes when I could. Super J Cup 94 was like amazing to me. That was like the first tape I think I got that was like complete, like a whole show. And it was, I understood everything that was happening. But I'm like a super lapsed fan because I was such a fan that, to the point where I trained with Dean Malenko in like 97, 98. And then a couple years later, I wasn't training. I wasn't even watching wrestling. I just kind of left it completely. And then I picked it back up again around Wrestle Kingdom 9, like 2015. I think they were on Access at that point, like Tanahashi, Okada era, that the height of their rivalry. And I remember I saw Wrestle Kingdom 9. I forget how I saw it, but Sakuraba was also on that show.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a big Sakuraba fan from Pride. So then I just kind of started following it a little bit, little by little, more and more and more. And to the present day.
Nice. Do you have a favorite wrestler? I know that's probably hard watching for so long. Is there one that kind of stands out to you, or maybe a favorite wrestler in each kind of time period?
Yeah, well, I was all about Liger. Liger is the one that really motivated me to like give it a go. Like I always say, there's Liger and there's everybody else. But modern, probably Okada. Definitely Okada. Like those are the two guys that like really were key in my fandom. But I love that whole early 90s era, like I love El Samurai, and no one ever talks about El Samurai, but he was awesome,
we talk about El
Samurai.
I know,
I'm sorry. Forgiveness. But like Samurai, kind of Moto, that whole, like, I think of it like the Token Retsuden era, like, because we were playing those video games, and it was just a great time. I really enjoyed that stuff. So I love the juniors of that era, and also now it'd be Okada. Love Ishii, obviously. There's so many high-level workers at this point. But yeah, that would be it. I'd say Liger and Okada if I had to distill it down to a guy from each generation.
Nice. And then probably an even harder question, what is your favorite all-time New Japan match?
Yeah, it's super hard. I'm going to give you a really corny answer because I'm sure it's like, a match that a lot of people is their favorite. Okada Omega 1. I know that, those are like kind of interchangeable, right? Some people like 2 more, some people like 4 more. I kind of like 1 the most just because it was like the first to set that.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. It was like, it was the first 45-minute match that I saw that was just like, it was over in a blink, You're like, I wanted more, like they could have gone longer, but everything was, it had a little bit of everything. It was perfectly paced. It had the crazy spots, but also they sold it for like minutes at a time. It was, it was just a great match. And I think it really stands up, and it will continue to stand up. But yeah, that's a hard thing to say, like that's my absolute favorite, but I think so. I also like a lot of Okada matches, I like Okada versus Ospreay from G1 29, Okada versus Ishii from G1 26. That match is awesome. And like I said, I love that early 90s, that junior era. Liger versus Sasuke from Super J Cup 94 semifinals is like always stands out. It always looms large in my memory because it was like once the backstory, Liger puts this tournament together, like you would think, well, he's the booker, why wouldn't he put himself over? But he didn't, he eliminated himself in the semifinals to put Sasuke over. Like that shows like how unselfish he always was, and it's a great match too. And like the ending is like, I love the ending. The ending is like when Sasuke slips off the rope and Liger kind of gives him a little clap and like whoop-de-doo, good job. Like it's like just perfectly covered. Sasuke pops up, gives him the Rana, done in like 20 minutes. It's a great little match.
Nice. Also, I'm glad too that you mentioned Omega Okada 1, because I do feel like that one does kind of get overlooked for the last one with Dominion 2 out of 3 falls, and also couldn't have that without the first one. So that's a good shout right there.
I'm a big, like, for me, I'm the biggest. If you ask me what I think the best of the series is, I do think it's the finale, but I don't think that I don't think the second or third match compared to the first match. And I don't care, you got your Dominion truthers out there, the 1 hour draw, but they're fucking wrong. Okay. It's all about that Wrestle Kingdom match. The best stage. It's got it's got the craziest bumps. It's the best match they had until the fourth match, in my opinion. I love that match.
Yeah, I see the arguments for all those matches really, because they all build on one another, right? So
Right.
Right.
It has that complexity. Each one has a little bit more complexity in the callbacks that the previous one didn't. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the first one is just incredible, and as a standalone thing, it's one match that I think even if you've never watched wrestling, you would get into it, like, because it's not so absurd. And yeah, it might be pretty long, but it's just very easy to read, even for a casual fan.
Right. All right. Well, let's transition now. Let's talk about G1 Climax 31. So we had the first two nights this past weekend in Osaka in the Edion Arena. So we'll start off September 18th. We had the A block kicking off. We had an attendance of 1,963. Pretty decent crowd here for, the limited capacity and the crap cloud era. And Osaka's always been one of the better arenas during the clap crowd era. So this show opened up with Sho in a kind of a prelim match before we got to the block matches. Sho defeated Oiwa 6 minutes and 8 seconds. So here we're seeing Sho get used to the new gimmick, being a part of the House of Torture, kind of working some stuff out. Trying to get over that new submission, the snake bite, he's calling it. Danny, what do you think about Sho here?
I think he's getting comfortable. I think he still has a little bit to go, right? Like Imp said last week, he's got the face thing going on. He's got the crazy eyes, right? He's crazy eyes killer. But I mean, overall, I think this is a good use for Sho, right? Not necessarily House of Torture, because that's the one faction named by the fans. I think, like I could do without that part. But as far as him being a heel, if I had to choose between him as a heel or a face, I think this is probably more natural. It's hard to say, right? But I think so. Like I think that he'll grow into it. So I mean, I thought this match was what it was. It was a squash, right? An extended squash. It wasn't that long.
Which submission is the snake bite?
It's a go-go plata.
Okay. Did he use that in the match with Yo? I don't recall.
I don't remember that.
I don't think he did.
Okay, so it's something new that he's doing, and he's doing a go-go plata, basically. Is he altering it in any way, or it's just a straight-up go-go?
I think it's a go-go. I really didn't examine it too closely, but nothing looked amiss, Not like when I saw the money clip and I was like, well, what is that?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like when Undertaker did the Hell's Gates and he kind of modified it a bit.
What was his modification on that?
I don't think he really...
He didn't throw the leg over the head, right? Like
no, he just threw it over the back and then he would pull down on the head, basically.
Yeah. I think his is tighter than that, Sho.
Yeah, Sho's does definitely looks better than the Hell's Gate. So yeah, so Sho.
That's an interesting move. I mean, is he putting himself in a pinning predicament when he's in it? Because I mean, that's been the one kind of knock on it. Is usually you're going on your back, going to your shoulders, basically.
Well, I feel like Oiwa flattened out more, and so Sho was a little bit angled, and I don't think his back was completely. I think he's kind of arched. So. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see like how they work that when guys are trying to fight out of it in the future.
Right, whether they count as a pin or not,
or even just like with them struggling, if that puts him in a precarious position. How long can he actually hold it without the referee noticing? That was the problem when Brock Lesnar used to put people in the Kimura. He was always pinning himself.
Right,
and they never counted it.
But yeah, I thought Joe looked good here. Like I said, he's trying some stuff. He's trying this, the go-go plata. He's doing the whole thing where he slaps his opponents to the count with the referee when they're on the outside, and also just trying to work up the aggressive here. We have a question here from a Reddit user, I believe it's Chalk to Lock. Is the Sho going to be wrestling in the pre-show every day? And no, he's not. It's just throughout the tour, he'll have some pre-show matches. And also asks, do you guys see House of Torture splitting from Bullet Club over World Tag League?
They want this breakup quick, huh?
Get this stink off me. Get these guys away from Bullet Club.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, there has been also you haven't really seen the House of Torture interact with the other Bullet Club guys. They are mentioning it in the ring announcement, saying these guys are a part of House of Torture. So yeah, I do think there might be. I don't know if it's gonna happen over World Tag League. Maybe it's in the build to the Dome, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of split here.
Yeah, my whole thing is I don't know how quickly they're going to do that. Probably some of it's going to be dependent on external circumstances with the pandemic and travel provisions and everything. Because you got to imagine that, the whole aim and goal is to eventually do Evil and Jay White at some point, I would assume. So that's probably the biggest thing is like, when is that even feasible,
Right. Well, let's move on to the next matchup here. So this was the first block matchup of the night for the A block. We had, speaking of House of Torture, one of their members, Yujiro Takahashi. We got the return of Peter, accompanying Yujiro down to the ring, just making for a great atmosphere for this matchup. And
was she there? I didn't even notice her. I don't notice these things. I'll take your word for it.
This man is pure. Danny, pure of heart.
That's me.
But, we had our first big upset here. Yujiro Takahashi defeats Kota Bushi 11 minutes, 31 seconds with the big juice that elevated DDT, execution type maneuver, lays out Kota Bushi, gets 2 points up on the board. This was a very winnable match for Abushi. Kind of 2 points down the drain here for him. Danny, what do you think about this?
Obviously, shock finish elevates it a little bit. Yujiro didn't look bad during the match, but he also, he wasn't doing anything special, but he was solid. He can be solid. Like, we've seen that, right? Like, he's not what he was once, but he's still a good hand. And I thought the match was fine up until the ending, and then that took it up a bit, quarter star, half star, whatever you want. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was the right thing to do too, in terms of, like, we already have the Yano spoiler, who's like, he can beat anyone at any time. Yujiro, he has to serve some kind of purpose there, right? He can't just be cannon fodder. He can't be the bushwhacker who gets into the Royal Rumble and, just walks the ring and gets tossed, right? There's no point in having guys like that, like, to a true filler. So at least this plants a seed that he can, pull an upset. Was it, it was pretty clean too. He did the low blow, but that's not like egregious. He didn't, go full evil or anything on it. So yeah, I thought it was the right thing to do, and it probably bodes well for Abushi, right? Because when you start off cold, there's a tendency to get hot. Down the stretch, right? And the opposite is true too, right? If you start out real hot, you're going to fall off and you're going to end up at 50-50. So I thought that boded well for Ibushi's chances.
And me and Jeremy were talking the other day, and I was unspoiled, but he'd already seen this match, and I was like, Yujiro might beat Abushi. And I was like, I know it's crazy, but I was like, Abushi, was coming off of 3 finals, two G1 wins back to back to back, and I was like, they kind of need something like a little bit of a story. Like, what if he goes cold for the first few nights? And like Jeremy kind of like looked at me and
I didn't want to spoil you. I was like, damn, he's right.
But I mean, this is really progression for Yujiro's character. If you think about it, last year he was that cannon fodder that you talked about, Danny. I mean, the guy only picked up 2 points, and I don't even, who did he beat? Jeff Cobb, I think.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb last night.
Yeah, and Jeff Cobb wasn't Jeff Cobb that we know today, so it wasn't quite the same thing. And you also think about Abushi, and it's like he's coming off of injury, and then the big loss to Tanahashi in a match that he only wrestled for 17 minutes, which also maybe speaks to his health. So maybe it's a little bit of art imitating life, But I mean, that's a shocking win, like huge. I mean, that's got to be one of the like most surprising upsets in G1 in the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, huge upset. The Osaka crowd, they let out an audible gasp, even though they're not supposed to. And I think it shocked everybody. You know, you're watching the match, you're like, all right, this is fine. You're waiting for Abushi to just hit the Kamigoye and get it over with. And you know, and then the low blow comes, and he hits the pimp juice, and Abushi kicks out. You're like, all right, he kicked out. He's gonna come back. He's gonna hit a V trigger, hit a Kamigoye, and then Yujiro picks him up, hits the big juice, and pins him.
This is a new move for him too, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't recall him ever, stealing Jon Moxley's finisher before.
Oh, you mean Gangrel's finisher?
Yeah, it's Impaler DDT.
Yeah, no, my man broke out a super finisher. You know, like,
right.
He's like, this is my burning hammer. And hold this burning hammer. And that was it.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yujiro picks up 2 valuable points here. We had a question from Reddit user Boots and Burns. Is Huge about to go undefeated in the G1 and become double IWGP World Heavyweight Champion at Wrestle Kingdom now that he has the big juice?
Obviously. I don't even know why that's so obvious, so let's move on.
So we're strapping the rocket to the huge.
Got to get this blue chipper over.
The blue chipper.
This hot young prospect, Yujiro.
Yeah, so obviously that was the first big upset. A lot of pick'ems going up in smoke on that match. So we move on to the next matchup.
Hottest new prospects: Bond Breakker and Yujiro Takahashi.
Yujiro should win Rookie of the Year in the Observer Awards. So the next matchup we have, speaking of the Observer, Dave Meltzer's favorite wrestler, the Great Okan. He defeated Tangaloa, who was with Jado, 17 minutes and 45 seconds.
He sure did. This was, I don't know. It was pretty mid, I thought. I mean, I thought Okan did good work, right, in terms of, it's heel versus heel, but he picked up the slack and was more of the face because obviously Jado's there with Tangaloa, so they're not going to be the faces. So Okan was playing to the crowd a little bit here and there. But overall, I mean, this was nothing special. I mean, Loa wasn't – I don't really have high expectations for him here, but he didn't, crap the bed or anything. It was just kind of there. I mean, I can't remember a single, notable spot or anything like that. Oh, Loa came out with the face paint. That was notable.
Yeah.
There you go. I misspoke. I tell a lie. He had the face paint on.
Yeah, big match, Loa.
There you go.
Is Okan wearing the big match gear for every night, or is he, mixing it up with the trunks sometimes?
He had the pants. Sabu pants on.
Sabu pants. So, I mean, these are two guys. It's their very first time ever in the G1 for both of them. I mean, I think some people have been critical of both of their work in the past. Other times we've praised it. I mean, what were your guys feeling as far as a first-time G1 matchup for both of them?
Well, like Danny said, it was a fine matchup. I mean, I thought it was good for what it was. Also, it was the third matchup of the night. I think both these guys are going to be guys to keep your eyes on as guys who are going to kind of have sneaky good tournaments. We've been high on Okan and Tangaloa in the past year. But, also it is weird to have that heel versus heel dynamic. And you have to mix in, Jado getting involved, and then, Tangaloa does kind of do the Roman Reigns. I'm going to give a little speech sometimes in the middle of the match and call him the Great Who. You're the Great Who. But I thought they had a lot of fire towards the end. There's a lot of cool power moves between both guys. Okan gets a win with the Eliminator.
That was kind of sudden, right? The finish, if memory serves, the Eliminator. I thought it kind of came out of, not nowhere, but it wasn't an extended finish.
Does anybody else hate that finisher as much as me?
It does strain believability. I don't hate it. Visually, it looks okay, but the idea that you get a claw, dude, and then lift him with the face, it sounds like you would just do damage on the way up if you were strong enough to just pull him up by his face. Right?
What, like Jason Voorhees, basically?
Yeah, it does strain believability a little bit, but visually, I've definitely, certainly seen worse. That's not an endorsement.
When Lance Archer used to do it, I was like, okay, I'm all about this movie. It makes sense. This is a big guy. But when it's Okan, I'm like, I don't know, man.
Right.
No, that makes sense. Lance Archer's hands are huge, right? They're huge. This guy Okan is he's around the same size as Loa, right? Like height-wise?
Right. I mean, and Loa is jacked too. So yeah, it definitely kind of makes it hard to believe that, yeah, he's just like grabbing Loa and just like slamming him like that.
Listen, bro, I've stood next to Tingaloa. I'm bigger than him, and I'm not that big. So I'm telling you.
So you're like 6'7"?
No. But yeah, Okan, I don't know. That's some big man territory. I think he should just like, I don't know, do something that like relies on his freaking background, maybe, you know?
Totally, yeah. No, that I had that same thought that he should do something that's a little bit more amateur based, more like throw, suplex based, something like that. That could
do like a Tazplex or something.
Yeah, she just drop people on their heads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a Steiner brother.
NXT.
But yeah, I thought this was, nothing that's gonna blow away. Thought it was fine. I think these guys are gonna have better matches, and it was a fine start for these guys here. So we move on to the next matchup here. We have Toru Yano defeating Kenta, 11 minutes and 7 seconds. And, people's opinions on this match, it's going to differ on whether you like the Yano comedy or not. Danny, I saw you putting your hand on your head.
I saw people like praising the beginning of this match. I don't know exactly what happened, but, I'm assuming shenanigans were afoot.
Oh, were they? Yes. I'll preface this by saying I love me some Yano. I think Yano's hilarious, right? But in small doses. And this was 11 minutes of just, like you said, shenanigans, or as my niece would say, shenanigans. Just the whole 11. It was just all tape based, like this roll of tape, and they just kept going back to that, and it was just so much of it. I really I can't even rate it like as a match because it was like barely a match to me. It was
right?
Like, okay, this is like comedy segment,
I don't know, Danny. The official record books say 11 minutes and 7 seconds.
Oh man, and you feel every one of those 11 minutes. I did. I was like, oh man. Hey, I'll tell you this: if I wasn't coming on the podcast this week, I would have skipped this, or I would have fast forwarded it, or played it at double speed, something. But instead, I sat there, I did my due diligence, I did my homework, and I watched every minute of this. I took notes. And I hate myself for it.
Keepin It Strong Style, punishing Danny.
But yeah, it was, and the finish too was kind of sloppy, and that was supposed to be an inside cradle, but it was just like, let's fall together, let's tumble like lovers, and then yeah, it was just not great.
This was straight up comedy from the get go. The referees checking both guys. Yano has tape hidden. Kenta has tape hidden. Like you mentioned, Dane, the story of the match was a tape, and so it's all based off of last year's G1 match, and they repeat the spot where Kenta, gets Yano up on the stage and ties him to the gimmick there, the scaffolding thing, and then Yano has to run back in. He gets back in, and then you mentioned he gets Kenta taped back up and gets him. He was supposed to kind of cradle him up, but they just kind of like fell on each other, and yeah, Yano outsmarted Kenta, got the pin, and again, we're talking about Abushi throwing away 2 easy points. I think that was some easy points there for Kenta as well. So starting off cold, just like Abushi here, but yeah, this is straight up 11 minutes of a comedy match. I went 2 stars flat on it. I did laugh at some points, but overall, like it wasn't really much of a match.
Yeah, to me, it was the same note over and over. Like, I got it, the tape. It's funny because that's what he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
But then business really picked up here with the semi-main event of the evening. We had the submission master, Zack Sabre Jr., defeating Tetsuya Naito 27 minutes and 5 seconds. And I'll see we'll talk about the news about Naito here in a second, but let's talk about this matchup.
Yeah, you said it. Business definitely picked up. This was I haven't been as high on Naito versus Sabre as other people. Like, I've enjoyed their matches, but I haven't liked them as much as other people have. I thought this was the best of the series. Like, for my money, I enjoyed it the most. I thought, Zack looked great. Like, physically, he looks great. Like, this is the best shape he's ever been in, which, I'm not a body guy or whatever, and not to body shame anybody, but I think it's important that, like, at this level, you have that physical credibility. And he has it now, and he's putting it to good use too, because he's doing suplexes out there. He's changing it up. He's doing some different offense. I thought he really shined here. Like he carried this match in certain ways. Naito's mobility is he can go in short bursts now. He can still go period, but he's obviously not what he once was physically. And I feel like ZSJ really made up for anything that might have been lacking with Naito, especially knowing now that he hurt his knee for real in the match. I rewatched the match to try to find where that might have happened. I couldn't see an exact moment.
This man's been walking around for years now with literally layers and layers of tape and athletic, padding. I mean, one wrong misstep in the wrong direction was enough to do his knees in at this point. He could have literally just done a forward roll and oh God, my knee.
Yeah, that certainly could have been the case. But I thought they had a lot of great spots, good action. There were no lulls really. They just kept moving, even with the submission based. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really good match. There's a lot of moments that I really liked. Powerbomb off the top by Zach, the DDT out of the shin breaker by Naito. The counter into the Valencia, the Zach driver counter.
Yeah.
Into the Valencia. It's just a really, really good match. And like I said, I thought it was the best in the series.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this matchup. It was one of my favorites of the weekend. I went 4 1/4 on it. Like you mentioned, Danny, there was a lot of great. Also, these guys have wrestled each other so much times now. There's a lot of great counters out of their big moves. Great near fall with Sabre doing the European clutch, which he normally wins. I thought he was going to win there, but Naito kicked out there. Like you mentioned, he's working over the knees the whole match. And also, I'm thinking, Naito's selling. Like you guys mentioned, his knees has been taped up for years. The recommended match that Chris picked last week was from G1, the finals against Tanahashi, and his knees were taped up back then. So I didn't think anything of it. And then also we got this news here of Naito being actually injured. But yeah, that was the focus of Sabre, and he got him in his new submission. The yes, I am a long way from home. Had him tied up there and focused on the knee. And Naito, he was in the middle of the ring, couldn't move, tapped out. So Sabre gets the big submission victory here. They teased the 30-minute time limit draw. They went 27 minutes, getting down, only 3 minutes left. And people, they're wondering, could Naito hold on for 3 minutes? But he couldn't, and legit, I don't think he could have with the pressure that was probably on his knee.
Yeah, this was another one that when I was doing my predictions with Jeremy, I was like, Naito was the champion last year. He got the better of this guy in the tournament. I was like, they're probably gonna go with Zach here, but these guys always blow it away every single time they're together. In fact, I might even be as bold to say I think that Zack Sabre Jr. might be my favorite regular Naito opponent. And because they just never miss, really. So looking forward to actually going back. Maybe since we're doing the review now, I can kind of cherry pick some of this stuff. I don't have to watch the Yano match. But definitely looking forward to this one. But yeah, it is unfortunate, the outcome, post match.
Yeah, and real quick before that, there was a question I forgot to grab from the Discord from EMJ Does PR. He says Zack Sabre Jr. now has big muscles, which we know always leads to titles. So Zack Sabre Jr. and singles title in the near future. Please discuss.
He's not wrong. I don't think that's a reason they would choose to push Zach. But certainly he's the kind of guy they can pull the trigger on anytime, right? He's credible enough that they could put him into the main event program at any point if they want to take him out of tags, and he would be totally fine. Certainly his performances would be up to stuff, but he also it wouldn't be weird in the eyes of the fans either. I don't think. Like I said, I'm glad that he looks better. He looks physically stronger. Just again, it just gives him a little bit more credibility, so that when he's moving guys around, it looks right. It makes sense.
Right. As far as a push for a singles title, he still is one half of the tag champs with Taichi as Dangerous Tekker, so he's kind of in the tag mix for right now, and he'll probably will be going into Dome season. But I do think, next year for the 50th year, you want to push some new guys, do some new title matches. I do think once they drop the belts, Sabre is a guy that would be interesting to get in a singles mix. You do have the U.S. title back. You could have him, him and Tanahashi have a history. You could have Sabre get the belt from Tanahashi at some point. He could be the U.S. champ, somebody that can fly over here to the U.S. as well. So there's a lot of possibilities that you could do with Sabre. I would love to see him challenge for the world title. I think he would be a great opponent for Shingo, and if Ospreay ends up becoming undisputed champion, we all know him and Ospreay have amazing matches together.
And remember, pre-pandemic, they were gearing up for a singles title challenge between himself and Jon Moxley, and I think the Dangerous Tekkers were still kind of going hot and heavy at that time. So it wasn't like it was one or the other. He was still kind of able to cohabitate both the singles and a tag team role. But, the thing with Zach was when he won that New Japan Cup a couple years ago and he ran through, all those top guys, they really established him as this credible force in the company. And he hasn't really ever kind of gotten back to that form. And what year is that, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, it's 2018.
Yeah, so we're talking like 4 years going on. I wouldn't be, opposed to him really getting a strong push, especially with Naito being out of the tournament, him being so favored. And, the fact that he's the guy that put him on the shelf, maybe you could, kind of take this opportunity. And I'm not saying he needs to win the block or anything, but, maybe you could really push him because he seems to go pretty middle of the road in these G1s for some reason.
Yeah. And with the news that we're going to talk about of Naito, I mean, this could be an opportunity for Zack Sabre Jr. to win the block. So we got the news early this morning from NJPW1972.com. Says during his G1 Climax 31 opening match on September 18th in Osaka, Tetsuya Naito suffered an injury to his left knee. Damage was incurred to his left meniscus and MCL. Naito is unable to compete on the remainder of the G1 Climax tour and does not currently have a timetable for return. All remaining tournament matches will be counted as losses via forfeit, with opponents gaining an automatic 2 points. Naito's remaining opponents will instead be competing in special singles matches with card changes outlined below. We apologize to fans who are looking forward to seeing Naito wrestle. We appreciate your understanding and support and wish Naito the best in his recovery. So some tough news here for the LIJ fans, tough news for people who picked Naito to win the block or the tournament in our Pick'em contest, and just some tough news for Naito and his career going forward. And we had lots of questions here on the Naito knee injury. So first from our user Chalk to Lock, how do you see Naito's knee injury, kayfabe, affecting him moving forward?
Well, I think he asked that right before he was actually legit hurt, right? So he like assuming that it would have been part of the story, the damage that Zach had done, that would have played out throughout the tournament. Right now, that doesn't really apply anymore.
Yeah, I mean that was a crazy thing because the commentary, like after the match, was like, yeah, Zach really zoned on his knees. This could be the end of Naito's tournament, and it was.
Well. They're always just going off of what's given to them. They don't know, what's a work, what's not. They just call it all like a shoot. So, it's pretty appropriate.
Yeah. And just kind of crazy news to wake up to this morning.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. Next question from Viking Pain. He asked, it turns out Naito's knee injury was legit after all, and he will be missing the remainder of the G1. Do you guys have any idea how it happened? How big of an injury is it? Is it a sprain, a dislocation, a tear? How long will he be gone?
Yeah, like I said, I tried to go back and look at it. He looked like he was pretty okay the whole time until that double stop. I don't want to blame Zach for it if he didn't do it, but it might have just been a misstep, literally. After that double stop, when he goes to do the satellite DDT, a little while later, you can see that he kind of stumbles a little bit. His leg doesn't look like it's completely under him. I don't know if that was him selling or if that was it happening. He's such a good seller that you literally cannot tell. But yeah, I think it's a shame that he's going to be out for the whole G1, and the fact that they said that they don't know that it's undetermined amount of time. That's a little concerning, right?
Yeah, and like you said, Danny, watching the match, I thought Naito was just selling. I mean, we've seen him. There was a match earlier this year where somebody rolled into his leg, and that looked pretty bad. He ended up being fine. So I'm like, well, the story of the match is Zack is working over his leg. And yeah, that double stomp to the knee was pretty nasty. But again, I thought he was selling. He locks him up. He's working submission holds on it. He has him tied up there at the end. And I'm like, oh yeah, Naito's selling. This is going to be the story of his G1. He's going to have to struggle through these knee injuries until he can hopefully get to the finals.
And that's a pretty good story, provided it's just a story.
Right.
Provided he shows up, yeah. There was one. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, you go. I was just going to ask the next question, so go ahead.
Oh, no, there was one other moment where I thought maybe I had contributed to the injury, because I know that for a shoot, it's very hard to take even when you're ready for it, like the scissor takedown. Even when that's something that you're just drilling, and your knee goes sideways pretty easy on that. I thought maybe that was it. That's the kind of move that I wouldn't even practice on people at a certain point. I just think it's so risky to do that it's not worth doing. And Zack did it well, but I thought that maybe that was when his knee turned a little bit sideways.
Naito was a heavy favorite by a lot of people to get to the finals. Now with his injury, do you think who do you think's coming out of the finals of the A block? Me personally, I think Shingo Takagi becomes the first champion to get to the finals now. I will have you know this is incorrect. We've actually had 2 champions win the G1 in the past, not just become finalists, but Keiji Muto as well as who was Power Warrior? Kensuke Sasaki. I actually don't know how many other champions have ever made it to the finals. That's a good question. I'm not sure about that, but I know that there have been in the past. But who do you guys think is going to take A block now?
Yeah, that's hard. And, obviously, as Chris and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, it could be kind of cool if you do the whole, Shingo gets to the finals, kind of prove he's a real world champion and maybe even win the G1. But the hard thing is with Shingo winning the block, then he's facing somebody from the B block, and let's say he loses, then that's going to be a title match at the Dome. And we know typically they don't do matches that they're going to do at the Dome. I know it's very different in this pandemic era, and they have done that, especially with the double Dome Dash. And I know we're going to have 3 Wrestle Kingdoms this year, but I think it would be a smart move to do one of your Dome main events as the finals main event again. And let's say it's like Shingo Okada. I don't think that they should do that. They should save that if that's going to be the actual one of the Dome matches. So, I mean, I think Sabre could be an interesting option to come out of the A block, especially if the winner is coming out of the B block. Sabre can be in the finals and lose. That's no big deal. I think the other favorite would probably be Kota Bushi, a guy that's been in the finals multiple times now, multiple-time winner. He's starting off cold, like you mentioned, Danny, but he could finish hot, and that he could end up being a guy going into the finals again.
I think there's a little Stone Pitbull that you guys might be discounting right now. I don't know.
No, I could see that. Winning the block, at least. Winning the block for sure. Probably not the whole thing. Yeah, no, I think there's...
You can win the whole thing.
Oh, okay. All right. You're right. Yeah, I mean, I think in A block, it's easier to say just who's definitely not winning, right? Otherwise, it's kind of like, I don't know. Like before Naito was injured, I would have said Sabre's probably not in the running for that. But now I could totally see that. Like, yeah, this is how these things happen, right? Somebody gets injured, somebody else takes their spot. This is their moment to shine, and they make the most of it. So we know Great Khan, Kenta, Tangaloa, Yujiro. Oh, what are we saying? Yujiro's winning the whole thing. We already established that. Why are we talking about this?
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would be Abushi, right? I think that's the most logical. Takagi is not really an option to me because of the reasons you said, Jeremy. But yeah, I can see Abushi, Ishii winning the block, and now Sabre, whereas before I probably wouldn't have said that.
They might go with Shingo just because they got 3 G1 nights. All bets are out the window, so... I'm sorry, 3 Wrestle Kingdom nights, so it's really hard to say.
I think...
And is that 3 Wrestle Kingdoms plus Dash? Have they revealed that or not yet?
So we have heard the rumor that there will be a Dash. We don't have that verified, but that's just kind of what we've heard. That's the scuttlebutt.
So if there's going to be a New Year's Dash, that means a lot of big things are going to be happening on that third show. Some people might be coming into the country. But if there's no New Year's Dash, then they might just have to work around some stuff.
But why do I feel like you guys are holding out?
No, we're not. That's literally what we just told you is what we heard. There is talks that there might be a dash in between the real Wrestle Kingdom and the fake Wrestle Kingdom. Last part of his question, he said, "Am I crazy to think that this knee injury will actually do some good for Naito in the long run?" Yes, I know he's one of New Japan's biggest stars and they need him, but Naito's body's really beaten up too, and he could use the time off.
I don't know. I mean, dude, maybe if it was like a torn bicep or something like that, or a torn pec.
Don't you feel like this man's had time off like in the very recent past, and like it didn't do him that much good?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for inertia, right? Like that he keeps moving, he keeps working. Like I wonder what happens if he's forced to take a long time off, if he'll ever rebound again. He's not a young guy, and he is, like I said, pretty jacked up.
Remember all those people that were freaking out when they decided to go with Okada over him?
Yeah.
Maybe the bookers knew a little bit something about the health of Tetsuya Naito, because I mean this man's been broken down for a few years now, and I'm not saying that. I know it's funny, but like honestly, I don't ever think that someone having a serious knee injury is ever good for them in the long or the short run, like at all. So hopefully he gets better, but yeah, it's not good news.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. A lot of people when they have knee injuries don't come back 100% themselves. They maybe can't do a lot of things they did in the past.
Dude, and if it's a tear, if you have to have surgery and then the rehab, and sometimes if you like let's say if you have to have like a cadaver like ligament or something put in there, it doesn't take. I mean that it especially at his age. No, I don't think it's good, honestly, at all. Yeah. I mean, it might do some good to the rest of his overall health, but for his knees, I mean, that's not good.
Yeah, agreed. I always think back to like as far as knee injuries go, the one that stands out the most in my mind is Rey Mysterio, right? Because Rey Mysterio knee injury and post knee injury are very different wrestlers. Like he's still great regardless. Doesn't matter. I'm not. Don't at me, please. Everybody. Ray stands, relax. Okay, stand down. But pre-knee injury, he's a revelation, right? And then after that, he's never quite the same. He's not doing the same exact things he used to do. He's smart. He's like Liger, right? In that he adjusted his offense and changed his style to compensate for his changing, ability. But he is different, And at this point, what kind of transition would Naito have to make at this age to a slower style? Like, that would be strange.
Didn't Naito... Jeremy, if you recall, and maybe you remember, Danny, in the road to New Beginning, didn't he have something where it looked like his knee was like literally fucked, and then he still ended up wrestling Abushi, and we didn't know how at the time?
Right, like somebody had like rolled into his knee. I forgot who he was wrestling, but
I think it was Nagata.
Yes, yeah, Nagata did one of his like the roll kick things to his.
Nagata rolled into his knee, or someone did, and it looked so bad. And we were like speculating about like, he's gonna be out for 8 months, 9 months, blah blah. And then somehow he got cleared, and somehow he still wrestled. But I don't know. I'm still wondering like if because now here we are. It's not that, it's just further down in the year, and he's out with the knee injury. And I remember how horrific that looked. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think he just put another roll of tape on his knee and said, let's do this. So the question is, can he get another roll under that knee pad?
Next question from Rambone Slam Pig. He asked us, with news of Naito's injury surfacing, I will re-ask an old question. Did Gato wish on a cursed monkey paw? Because this is getting crazy. Feel free to incinerate my G1 bracket.
Well, I think, a lot of people's G1 brackets are up in smoke now. I mean, I had Naito winning the A block, so I don't see myself, surviving in our contest much longer. But, yeah, I don't think Gato put a curse on him, but definitely some bad luck here for Naito.
Last couple questions from Dom Homie 101. He said, any thoughts on the knee injury of Tetsuya Naito? I feel like we've covered that, but he asked, how do you think it will affect the rest of the G1 and beyond G1? Where does New Japan go from here? And I think the interesting question is, how does this affect the booking of the G1 specifically?
Right, especially if Naito was somebody that was booked to win, then definitely they're scrambling. And we've heard of,
and even if he wasn't, he was definitely going to get what 10,
12
points, 12 probably.
Right, and we've heard like for COVID, they have backup plans in case somebody gets COVID, but also now they have to have a backup plan for injuries as well. So maybe we're kind of already prepared in case somebody went down with COVID, but it's definitely going to be a lot of shifting around. I mean, where do they go from here? I mean, after G1 and after Super Juniors and Tag League, we have Road Tokyo Dome. We have 3 dome, or I guess 2 domes, and then Yokohama. 3 big main events that you got to fill, and you got to imagine that Naito would be featured heavily on all 3 of those shows or a couple of those shows. And so I don't know, if they're going to have a hard time filling that spot or where they go from there.
I'm guessing right now that's probably their biggest hope is that he gets healthy in time for dome season at least, because that's going to, affect their bottom line. And, I'm sure he wants to be on the big stage as well. I'm almost kind of wondering though about okay, let's say obviously we just had this situation, right? Naito, big points getter, he's gone. They got to reshift everything. This is not necessarily uncommon in the G1. Things like this have happened many times in the past, but with that threat of COVID kind of looming, I know a lot of the guys everyone was vaccinated, but what if we get deep into this thing and then someone that, let's say Zack Saber's going to win and then he has to drop out due to COVID and then it completely fucks up the points total. What do they do? I mean, this might feel like the first time that the G1 outcomes could actually even be out of the hands of the booker in some cases.
Right. I mean, at one point, it makes the tournament very unpredictable and a little bit more exciting to watch. It's sad that it comes because of injury, but now it's really I feel like anybody could win in the A block for the most. There's a lot of people who can kind of come out here with the A block.
What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, as much as I don't like the briefcase deal, I think this is the situation where it benefits them to have it, right? Because they can always pivot to something else, throw somebody in there at the last minute, and it gives them that flexibility that right now they really need. Because I doubt they have a contingency for all 20 guys. If this guy gets hurt, this is what we're gonna do. I think this is where Ghetto's metal gets tested. How can he pivot to something else to adjust it, maybe to get to the same finish that he was looking for, same outcome, with a different route, or just create a different route altogether and say we're going to go with somebody else for now. And if Naito's back and healthy, we'll do the briefcase thing and get him in there. If not, we'll do something else. I think this is why.
So you're saying that if Yujiro wins the G1 through happenstance, then Tanahashi can wrestle him on the next show and win the briefcase, is what you're saying.
That's what I would be pulling for. I hope pull the trigger on the briefcase.
And we had an interesting, stat from our friend Chris Samsa, who said Shinsuke Nakamura was the last wrestler to forfeit a G1 Climax match on July 28th, 2015. Nakamura forfeited a match against
Still made
Elgin,
it to the finals.
Yeah, due to elbow injury, and returned to the tournament after taking 1 match off and went on to win his block. So I know some fans are kind of speculating that this could be a work, or that Naito could come back at the end of the tournament and somehow pull it off. But I mean,
that would be cool.
I think they've got to sell tickets though, right? I don't think they would want to advertise Naito as not being on cards.
Who knows with this company now?
Yeah.
Last part of his question. With Naito withdrawing from the G1 action, is it possible that New Japan could use this as a storyline to push ZSJ to a higher level? G1 finals appearance since he was Naito's last opponent? ?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the meme of I kicked Naito's leg out of his leg going around today, or I broke Naito's leg T-shirt, going around Twitter today. And so, yeah, it could be a great thing to elevate Zack. Zack can brag he's the one that put Naito out of the G1. And like we mentioned earlier, it opens the door for a guy like Zack to go to the finals, especially if the winner is not coming out the A block. He's a great wrestler. He can have a great match with anybody that comes out the B block, and it could be a great opportunity for him.
So it looks like moving forward, they're going to have a series of special singles matches for those who are getting the free 2 points due to his withdrawal from the tournament. They've kind of given us a breakdown here. So September 23rd, night 3, we're going to have It says Naito against Tangaloa.
Well, that was the original match.
Oh, okay. So I'll just read off the changes here. So we're going to be getting Yuji Nagata against Tangaloa on night 5. We'll be getting Yuji Nagata against Shingo Takagi. On night 7, we'll be getting Bushi versus Yujiro Takahashi. On night 9, Bushi versus Toru Yano. Night 11, Hiromu Takahashi against Kenta. That is pretty awesome. And then night 13, Hiromu Takahashi against Tomohiro Ishii, a rematch of their very famous New Japan Cup encounter.
Yeah.
And then night 15, Satoshi Kojima against Kota Bushi. Jeremy, that's got you written all over it.
Oh, yeah. Red Club, baby.
And then night 17, Satoshi Kojima versus Great Khan. So, some pretty fitting replacement matches there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these singles matches are pretty exciting and are some good additions here.
Yeah, I don't know how Bushi snuck in there, but yeah, otherwise you got Nagata, Kojima, Hiromu.
Bushi has a pinfall victory over ZSJ, I will remind you.
Oh, that changes everything.
Well, now let's talk about the main event of the evening. Perhaps already the best match of the whole tournament.
Maybe the year.
Yeah, the Dragon. Shingo Takagi defeats the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii. 27 minutes, 56 seconds. Another tease of the 30-minute draw. Danny, I know you took lots of notes, man. What do you think about this big main event?
Checks notes. Yeah, it was great. It was really, really good match. Super hard hitting. I think this is exactly the kind of match that like first time G1 viewers would just be blown away by it, right? Because it's so different. It's so completely different than other products. If I had to criticize it at all, and I know you brought me on the show to do that, to play that role, so I'm going to criticize it a little bit. I'm just going to say I thought it went on a little bit too long for what it was. Like they're beating just the absolute piss out of each other. I would have liked to see it end a little bit earlier. At a certain point, I felt like it was getting into diminishing returns. It was just a little bit too repetitive. The end was super, super hard hitting. Those headbutts were bananas. But I thought the last headbutt was a little bit hard to read. I didn't realize that only Ishii took the brunt of it, that Shingo was fine until he started hooking up the wrist. Yeah. But otherwise, it's just a crazy match. I mean, it's like a few minutes in and people getting power slammed on the floor. It's just like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. Yeah, they it's some of the strongest. You see it all the time, right? In New Japan, lariats that like just knock people out of their boots. And even when you're used to it, some of these were like, oh my God, just end it. Like that lariat that's a finisher anywhere else.
Yeah, I just love, this was obviously a different pace from the whole rest of the night. Before the semi-main, Sabre and Naito was a more kind of technical, methodical, like Sabre breaking down the knee. Like you mentioned, Ishii and Shingo, we got a never title match here. These guys from the bell ringing, they were going at it with the shoulder blocks, like you mentioned, strong layers, strong chops. Ishii doing the chops to the throat, and great job on Kevin Kelly. They were talking about Ishii when he was a young boy, and in dojos he would get chopped in the throat for not cleaning the toilets right or doing whatever duties right in the dojo. So he's returning the favor now, and so a lot of great back and forth there. I love obviously that the spot where they're exchanging back suplexes over and over, just taking turns back suplexing each other, and also the more they do it, the slower they get up in between each one. And we say all time, Ishii is just an incredible selling. The bumbling that he was doing.
Oh, best stagger in the business.
Yes,
like it's unbelievable. He gets like his leg goes a little stanky. It's fantastic.
The one spot that I gasped at was when Ishii was going for the super brain buster and he dropped Shingo. Luckily, Shingo landed on his back, but that could have ended Shingo's G1. That was scary. I was like, but
yeah, and then they did the what any sane person would do and go right back to it. Yeah. They did it again.
But the good thing was, it wasn't like the WWE thing where like they mess up a spot and then they immediately go back to it and try and do it. Like they took.
Oh no, yeah. Ishii was like, I'm getting this. You're taking this.
Right.
Yeah, and it looked very deliberate, and the crowd was with it. The crowd was all about it when he connected. This was a pretty loud clap crowd, right? Like there were some moments here and that was one of them where they couldn't help. They couldn't help but gasp. Like, I think the first one that I really noticed was the Esperanza in the Naito match.
Right. Yeah.
They were like, ugh! and then the clutch in that same match. But yeah, and then this brainbuster too. It was bananas.
So, I mean, these two guys have had quite a few incredible matches. Just 2 years ago, I think that they won the Fight of the Year award for our year-end award. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you the level of violence. But this match seems to be especially high praised. I mean, are we talking best of their series? I mean, what are you guys thinking? Where were you ratings-wise in this?
Personally, I went 4.75. I didn't go.
Coward.
I'm a coward. I didn't go the full 5. I think as much as I like, the recovery of the slip of the brainbuster, I think that was the one thing that stopped me from going the full 5. But I mean, this was a violent. It was a masterpiece. Both guys selling incredibly, and I also love too that it wasn't the same kind of closing stretch that we get from Shingo, where he kind of hits an Oshigami, he hits a pumping bomber, and then he hits the last of the dragon. Like you mentioned, Danny, we had that headbutt exchange, and then Ishii just kind of slipped, and Shingo was able to catch him and then hit the last of the dragon real quick. It was kind of a desperation last of the dragon, and gets the win.
Yeah, it was a great match. I mean, I was picking at nits earlier, right? I went 4.5. And that's probably low for a lot of people. But like I said, at a certain point, I kind of wish I had ended a little bit earlier, just because the level of violence was so high that I was like, this would make more sense to be done by now. Like they can't keep getting up like this. But it's, a minor. I wouldn't argue against 4.75. It was a great match, and they hit super hard. But they also take good care of each other, right? Because those back suplexes look super hard, but they're not dangerous. They're not dropping each other at really awkward angles or anything. So, I think anybody can appreciate what they did.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a story here with the time limit. So we saw the time limit teased in the Naito Sabre match. We saw it teased here in this match. And then we're going to talk about Okada Tanahashi for a second. It was teased there too. So I think we're going to see more matches for the tournament go to this teasing of the time limit draw. We might actually get a draw at some point. So it's definitely going to be something for everybody to keep your eyes out when we're getting the 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. They definitely setting the table.
The other thing, too, is I could imagine what you're mentioning there, Danny, with it being a little drawn out, especially coming off a 27-minute match just prior to it, So you got 2 really long matches back-to-back there.
That's true. That might have influenced my perception of it.
Well, let's move. Actually, we had a question here from Viking Payne. It says, who's the best wrestler in the world, and why is it Shingo Takagi?
The funny thing is, I know he's serious about that, but I mean, obviously there's a lot of talent out there that you could always, throw in that mix and conversation, but low key for probably 15 years now, maybe longer, Shingo has secretly been in that mix consistently the whole time. He just was on a smaller platform. People didn't know, but now they're seeing what, the diehards knew all along.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Shingo is just absolutely incredible. Definitely one of the best going today. He's the man.
Yeah. I'll say this. I won't throw any shade, a little shade, slight shade. So we had a podcast on this network, no longer with the network, and they were just, they know their shit, but they were just not as familiar with New Japan. And when he came out as the secret member for LIJ, they're like, who is this guy? They're like, man, they should have brought someone a little more charismatic. This guy doesn't even seem to fit the LIJ mode. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, God. It's probably one of the worst takes on the history of this network.
Yeah, man. Don't go in the archives for that one, folks. But let's move on to night 2 for the first night of the B block. So again, in Osaka, Edion Arena, this time a little bit higher of a crowd here, 2,188. So a little bit more of a draw here for the dreaded B block that everybody was, dreading because of Evil and Yoshihashi and Chase Owens. Some people who haven't been watching, they still think Tai Chi's, old Tai Chi. A lot of people were dreading this B block show and the B block in general. And overall, I thought that this B block night, compared, top to bottom, I thought overall this night was better than the first A block night, even though obviously Shingo and Ishii is a match of the year candidate, I thought consistency wise, the B block took it this weekend for me.
I hadn't actually thought about which show I preferred more. I guess you're right too. I guess, yeah, because really there was 2 high points those last 2 matches on the A show. So yeah, I think I'd probably go with I'd probably agree that B block. I rate the show as a whole a little higher.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the show opened up with Sho defeating.
You're welcome. You're welcome for that.
Sho defeating Fujita, the other new young lion, by referee's decision. Sho once again continuing to trying to get over that snake bite gogoplata. Got the ref stoppage. Once very similar to the Oiwa match. Sho just being super aggressive. He killed Fujita here with a series of Germans before he got on the gogoplata and got the win here.
Yeah, and I noticed that he tried. Fujita tried to get a quick start like Oiwa did on the first night, but Sho wasn't having it. He just ducked out of the ring, which I thought was pretty, smart little wrinkle to like show that he's an intelligent heel that he learned from the first match. But yeah, otherwise it was what it was, right? It was again kind of an extended squash. But both young lions, still look great in what they do. The limited offense they had, they're selling, everything looks super good, and they're exciting prospects. I think they're really, really good and really, really far along.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Also, they were going against each other, but it's interesting to see them against somebody that Sho that's very experienced and out of that dojo system. And yeah, like we mentioned in their series, man, these guys, they're awesome at where they're at right now. And so I know they're gonna have some few other matches in this tour, and so looking forward to seeing them continue to progress.
Yeah, it's interesting too. How the first few times that we saw those guys, I was sort of mentioning how the matches that Sho had early on with, like, say, Kushida kind of reminded me of what they're doing. So it's sort of a good fitting opponent for them. And at the same time, seeing Sho in this new phase of his career and this new style of work that he's probably doing. I did see some GIFs. I don't know if it was Oiwa or Fujita, but one of them hit this incredible drop. I mean, I know they both do great drop kicks, but one of them just killed Sho with the drop kick. And I was like, oh man.
I think that was Oiwa actually, because I wrote it down. Drop kick, but I think that was Oiwa.
Yeah, that first night, he killed Sho with that.
I don't know what's up with all these young lions doing, Okada level drop kicks. I don't know what's going on in that dojo over there.
They teach him good drop kicks.
They're doing something right, man. They're doing something right for sure.
They drill it all day. They play the Okada video 24/7. And they're like, again, do it again until they get it right. Let's move on to the first B block match of the night. We had everybody's favorite wrestler, Evil, defeating Yoshihashi, picking up 2 points here, 17 minutes and 15 seconds.
I think you probably know my thoughts. I did not like this. I thought, and it's a shame that I rate this so low. I give this like below 2 stars probably if I had to give it a score. But I had a shenanigans count going, and I stopped at 5. It might have been more than that, but I stopped. There was 5 distinct interferences by Togo, and it was just way too much. And Hashi was working actually really, really hard. Like, this is the new Yoshihashi, and he's really good. He looks good out there. He's got a lot of fire. He did a pump handle backbreaker that was, looked great. But I just can't rate this because it's just so much interference, so much nonsense. I just cannot watch Evil matches. It's a shame because I think that Evil is better than this. Actually, I don't think he's great, but I think he's better than this. And I don't understand what this booking is. I don't understand who insists on having his matches be like that. Like why you would. Like, I know it's Dick Togo, but I don't know why you would. Like, are you that enamored with the cheap heat style? It's just cheap heat, Like, it doesn't even seem like the crowd cares, it seems like the crowd, if there's such a thing as like go away heat with the New Japan audience, this would have it. Like, it seems like people are just like, ugh, what is this? This is not wrestling.
I've seen some pretty negative things about this match. And, if you guys recall, in my opinion, last year during the G1, they actually had one of the better Evil matches of the whole tournament. That, and then also the match he had with Zack Sabre Jr., which was also surprisingly really good. So, but yeah, the account that you just gave, 5 different separate, cases of interference, it's kind of selling me on the idea of maybe hitting the old skip button. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I wasn't as low on this match as Danny was. I went the gentleman's 3 here. I've actually seen a few higher. I've seen a few people go 3.5 on this match.
3.5. Wow.
We have some buddies that said that they enjoyed the match. They thought it was pretty good. So I mean, I'm a little conflicted here.
Well, here's the thing: like you can't like punish Yoshihashi for Evil. Like, Yoshihashi worked really hard. Like you mentioned, had a really good performance, and like obviously if Evil was wrestling as LIJ Evil, this probably would have been a 3.5 in my eyes. But like you mentioned, also there was a lot of interference, but I don't think it was overdone. It wasn't like Jingu overdone where you have Togo and everybody running out and
Right, I wouldn't describe it as overbooked, right? It wasn't like a lot of different kinds of things, like different weapons, it was just Togo interjecting himself a bunch of times. For one time he grabs the leg as the guy's coming off the rope, then he's up on the apron, then he's up on the apron again, then he's sneak attacking, then he's, there's a bunch of little instances like that. And yeah, so definitely I've seen worse from Evil. This isn't even close to his most egregious performance by any means, but it might just be the fact that Hashi worked so hard that I'm punishing this match even more because Hashi deserved better than to have like such a crappy performance on the other side of that. It just made me mad. Like this guy didn't even let me enjoy Hashi. Like Hashi at his very best, doing his best, but then we got all this nonsense going on. But yeah, so maybe I was too harsh. I will admit that.
Josh, you want to get the questions?
Don't take it back. Just just ride with it.
Oh no, it's already been published. To every rating app you can think of, I put I noted my dissent there.
Fit_beautiful 2638 says the best part about the G1 is how everyone steps up. Yoshihashi really helped me enjoy that Evil match. How do I explain to myself from a year ago that this is indeed real life?
Well, I think it's really all depends on your opinions on Evil, your opinions on Yoshihashi, and what you thought about this match. Obviously, a Fit Beautiful here is probably a little bit higher on the end, maybe towards that 3.5. And like we said, Evil, he's fine. He's not a horrible pro wrestler. There are worse pro wrestlers than Evil. But when you have him with this gimmick, you have him with the Togoism, like that just drags things down more. But from a technical standpoint, I mean, everything that both guys did was executed well.
Yeah, can't add more to that, so we'll just move on. But yeah, Yoshihashi rules and Evil sucks. So Viking Pain asked if the rumors are true that the House of Torture will be broken off from the Bullet Club to be their own faction in the future, thus leading into an Evil Jay feud with Jay ultimately turning babyface in the end. Will a Jay White babyface turn also affect Bullet Club as well? A babyface / tweener Bullet Club would inject some freshness into the faction.
Yeah, that's an interesting question there. I mean, we've kind of seen, also, like when the Elite was a part of the Bullet Club, they were kind of that tweener, especially when they did stuff in the U.S. I mean, they were pretty much leaning more babyface. So you could go that route. I mean, we saw in Resurgence how Jay White, like, bursting through the curtains, was too sweeting everybody. So maybe that is the direction they're going into, and maybe you're going to have this more babyface leaning Bullet Club going against the House of Torture.
Yeah, maybe it's a little breadcrumb.
What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. I'm sure Jay could pull it off. The only reason I could think of not to want that is because he's such a good heel. And they need heels, like just pure heels, not like, the Suzuki Gun heels, which, get cheered a lot and no one wants to boo Suzuki. But he's just a pure heel and he's really, really good at it. It would be a shame not to have that, even though I know that he would be good in whatever role. He's so seasoned at this point that he'd be really good as that tweener also. So yeah, I don't know if that's where they're going. I think they could certainly do House of Torture versus the rest of Bullet Club and keep their personalities as they are now. everyone just cheats. Everyone cheats. Everyone, is a heel. That's a possibility. Well, I don't know if it equals money, but it's certainly possible. Or they could just, part amicably, right?
To just shake hands and walk away.
That's kind of my big question as well. I mean, it does to some extent make sense for them to switch eventually. And like you mentioned, Jeremy, they kind of were tweeners, so they've kind of gone through metamorphosis over time. But like Danny said, they need heels. So if they're going to step out, someone kind of needs to fill that void. Right now, the only other true blue heel group that exists is United Empire. And I guess the House of Torture maybe would be the one that de facto takes over that. But, I don't know. At some point, you got to kind of start consolidating at least one or two of these factions. They start to get long in the tooth. So, I'm wondering if Bullet Club even is long for this world.
Hey, man, as long as those T-shirts keep selling, they're going to be around.
That's the only thing that makes me reticent to say that. But, all good things come to an end,
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
The next question here we got from Dom Homie 101. Is it me or is Yoshihashi the best opponent for this version of Evil? So apparently there's some people that were kind of enjoying this match. I don't know.
I enjoyed Hashi. I enjoyed Hashi's side. And then every time something would happen with Togo, I'd be like, really? Like, why? No, I get that totally. I mean, Hashi he's really good. He's really solid. He's doing a lot of little things better than he did even a year ago, 2 years ago. I feel like he fills the spaces between his spots a lot better, a lot more credibly. He just looks better out there. He's comfortable. I'm really happy to see this, out of him. And I look forward to his matches when he was not involved.
Right. And, like we mentioned, he got this renewal, once he won the Never Six-Man titles. And I think Yoshihashi just wants to try really hard. He wants to prove that he should be in the G1 and belongs. He didn't score very well last year. I think got 4 points or something like that, very low in the block. And so he goes out there, works really hard, and, he tries to outwork the Togoism and ends up being in decent matches.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that's like thinking about the question. I'm like, who is Evil's best opponent since he turned heel?
Hiromu.
I can't. Huh?
Hiromu.
They had one match, and I mean, him and Zack Sabre had like one match. I don't think there's a single person really that I've felt confident to say like, yes, when these two guys go out, they're going to deliver.
Yeah. I think it all depends. Again, this was the opening match, so they didn't get the normal Evil 30-plus minutes, so I think that helped too.
Very interesting.
Well, let's move on to the next matchup. We had the Aloha Maker Jeff Cobb defeating the Crown Jewel Chase Owens, 12 minutes and 11 seconds. And this was a very good matchup here. We've talked on the show before about how how good of an in-ring worker we thought Chase Owens was, and he showed it really here in this match. I mean, there was pretty much no cheating from Chase here, and no cheating from Cobb. But both these guys, this is a match I feel like you would see like on an independent kind of main event, and these guys did a really good job here.
And I feel like we've seen these two guys wrestle on that produce show that Kenny did at the CEO show a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, I forgot they had that match there.
Yeah, we saw that live, and I don't remember being that impressed with that at the time, but, I wouldn't be surprised if this delivered.
Yeah, I thought it did. I didn't really have expectations either way, but I thought Chase looked really good. Like all his offense looked really credible, right? Like he's all his offense is perfectly suited for a smaller guy versus bigger guy. He's hitting V triggers. He's what else did he do? Well, he took a belly to belly on the floor, which was crazy. He got tossed completely.
Yeah.
Took a great bump off the top rope when Cobb cut out his legs. That looked gnarly. Yeah, I thought it was a really good match. I was into it. The pace was fast. These guys just kept moving. Cobb is a physical freak. Yeah, I went like 3.25 stars on this. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I went 3.5. Like you mentioned, fast-paced, 12-minute match. Story of the match is obviously Jeff Cobb is the more powerful, the bigger opponent, and Chase is trying to outwork him, try to outuse his speed advantage, the quickness, but Cobb would catch him, like you mentioned, that belly to belly to the floor. that was nasty, and just all the crazy list of power moves that he was doing to Chase Owens throughout this match until he finally was able to get him in the rebound. Tour of the Islands, 1, 2, 3. Cobb picks up his first 2 points here.
Nice. We had a question here from Chak Tlalak. They asked, what role should Chase Owens fill now that he is the Texas Heavyweight Champion?
Well, I don't think his role is changing. I mean, he's been the Texas Heavyweight Champ for a while now, and I don't think that has changed his role whatsoever.
Is it even a real title? I mean, we don't even know what this means.
Yeah.
Does he walk out with it? I can't remember. Does he come out with that?
Sometimes.
I don't remember him coming out with it. Did he come out? I don't think he came out with it.
I don't think so. Not this time.
Yeah.
Maybe he lost it over the weekend. Didn't even realize it.
They probably told him, like, yo, keep your replica belt at home. Like, this is the G1, you know?
Oh, man. Let's move on to the next matchup here. Cole Skull Sonata defeating Tama Tonga, 19 minutes and 4 seconds. Thought it was, again, another very good matchup here. Another Bullet Club guy with minimal cheating. I know a lot of people were worried about Tama Tonga. Last time we saw him in a G1, his performances were not that great, kind of stunk up the joint, but I thought he worked really hard here. Had a good match here for Sonata, who's a guy who typically wrestles to the level of the guy he's in there with. I thought for the most part this was pretty fast-paced. A lot of great counters. The way that Sonata countered the gun stun into the skull end, and there was a lot of great. There were a lot of gun stun counters. A lot of counters out of the Dragon Sleeper. Tama Tonga did a Tongan twist out of that. These guys worked really well together, and I thought it was, again, a 3.5, another really good matchup.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. So 3.5. I will say this is probably the first time that I haven't been disappointed with Tama Tonga in a singles, because I think that was supposed to be a compliment. I'm sorry. The temptation with Tama is always like when he gets the singles, match, you're like, okay, he's really good in tags, super charismatic guy. This should be good. And then invariably, it's usually not. Usually it's kind of mid, right? But this is the best I think I've ever seen him. And maybe it's just the chemistry he has with Sonata, but they were countering really, really well. He busted out that butterfly pile driver.
Oh, yeah. Tama Tonga did the J Driller. I was like, oh, my gosh.
That's what it's called. I couldn't remember what the name was.
The Tiger Driver 98?
Yes. Drop this man Sonata on his dome.
Yeah, it was, and it was a really, really good match. I took off a full quarter star for the Paradise Lock. I cannot with that move. That move just kills everything. And I don't even get why he still does it, to be honest, because the crowd is so into it before it happens. Like when he's like telling them cheer, 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 clap, clap, clap. Then when he actually connects with that low drop kick as he slaps his thighs super hard with both hands, it's just like, it's just like, and clap crowd, I understand. But even before clap crowds, even pre-pandemic, it was always just a very lukewarm kind of pop. So I'm like, this is like.
Listen, Danny, I think the problem is, like, I know you've done some training, but, I've trained more than you. So the thing is, you probably just don't understand the technical beauty of the Paradise Lock. I mean, I've been locked in that thing, and you just can't get out. You woke
up like a week later, right? You were like, where am I? What's going on?
So Matt Seidel puts me in a Paradise Lock, right? Turns off the lights of the building, leaves. I'm there alone. No food, no water, no sustenance. I fall asleep. I wake up the next morning, and, the people that own the building are there, and they're wondering what I'm doing in the ring tied up in knots. And I had to have some people push me over. So it's a very, very, very legit move. And I just think you don't get that. I don't know.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
Check out the latest footwear innovation from Adidas, the Adizero Adios Pro 2, which features carbon fiber energy rods, They're both lightweight and precisely tuned for a more anatomical transition. Everything from the ultra-light polyester upper to the re-sculpted midsole and the reinvented outsoles are designed for speed. Visit adidas.com to learn more today.
That's my fault. That's my ignorance.
Oh, man. But, yeah, we got to finish.
But otherwise, yes, I agree, Jeremy. It was a really good match. I actually watched this match with I watched it with English commentary and Japanese commentary in the background. Like I put both streams on, and the Japanese commentators were going absolutely ape, and I thought it really added to the match. They were really, really into it.
Yeah, I thought both guys like worked really hard to like get the fans into it. Like Tamo kind of stole the RKO setup where he was like pounding the mat and the crowd's like clapping along to the pound, and then in the match he goes for the gun stun one more time. Sonata counters into an O'Connor roll, 1, 2, 3, gets rolled up, and Sonata gets his first 2 points on the board.
Nice. And just for the record, I was joking. I don't know if I've trained more than Danny. I have no idea. Keep in mind with these two guys, though, they have worked extensively together, especially in those tag team matches between GOD and LIJ back in the day. So we did have a question here from Mitch MM22. He said, is Sonata's character supposed to be dumb in kayfabe? Watching that Tama Tonga match was infuriating. Falling for the dumb heel stick and shaking Tama's hand and posing on the top rope with his back turn. Then he released the skull end into a missed moonsault. Kills me every time. I love watching Sonata wrestle, but the character's so damn frustrating. I'm genuinely asked, is being dumb a part of the character?
Well, he is a coal skull. Maybe there's nothing in the coal skull. But yeah, the moonsault thing frustrates me a lot too, because especially the refs dropping the arm 1 and 2, and then he's gonna get the win with the stoppage, and then he goes up for the moonsault, and then the guy always recovers in time and moves. So that is kind of dumb as well. And then in this matchup, Tama offers the handshake twice. He fell for it twice and got attacked that way. And then Tama, I thought it was hilarious where like Tama was like, "We just did a nice spot together. Shake my hand."
I respect you.
And then the pose off, and Tama lured him into the pose off again. So, yeah, I think what do they call Sonata? A himbo? Is that what the term?
Yeah.
He's a dumb jock, and he just falls for everybody's tricks.
Yeah, we used to try to like make sense of it, using logic and psychology, but like I'm done making excuses for this man. He's just stupid.
Let's move on to the semi-main event here. Dangerous T, Taichi. He defeats Hiroki Goto, 18 minutes and 30 seconds. Another little hard-hitting matchup here. Danny, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, really liked it. I actually watched it twice. First time, I went 4 stars on it. Second time, I went a little lower, maybe like 3.75, but we're, again, picking at nits. The only thing was maybe the first 5 minutes are like that slow Tai Chi pace, maybe a little bit more than 5 minutes. But after that, it got, and he was doing like the choking with the cable on the outside, and Red Shoes was powerless to stop him.
Hey, to be fair, Goto did choke him with the cables first.
You're right. So it's then Tai Chi returned the favor, shoved Red Shoes, all that stuff. If I was rewatching it a third time, which I'm not going to do, but if I was, I would just skip the beginning, right? I would skip the beginning, and then it really, really picks up. And Tai Chi is, he's really good. He's not. He's the old Tai Chi for up to a point in the match. And then he gets serious, and he puts his working boots on, and he starts kicking, kicking relentlessly. And Goto's Goto. Goto is, super reliable, super snug. So everything looked really good down the stretch. I thought it was a really, really good match.
Yeah, and I like that Taichi is now incorporated that choke slam maneuver. He teases doing the chokes all in the beginning of the match. He does the quote-unquote Greco-Roman choke, but he's been turning that into a choke slam now. I love that illegal sumo strike move that he's been doing, that sumo forearm elbow moves. That's just killer. These guys had a great strike exchange where Taichi kicking the knee and Goto throwing forearms. And like you mentioned, after you get through the first few shenanigans, it's all like hard hitting action here. These guys throwing big strikes, throwing big suplex. We got that dangerous backdrop driver, which was great to Goto. Just a lot of good stuff. Goto busting up the Shouten Kai for a great near fall as well. And so there's a lot of great back and forth here until Taichi eventually, I'm going to mention, he hits the sumo elbow and hits the Black Mephisto. 1, 2, 3. We also had Miho Abe out here. So we had Miho Abe and Peter in the same weekend.
Jeremy, clean it up. Clean it up. This is you're making this podcast a little too thirsty. I mean,
hey. No, speaking of thirsty, man, Chris Charlton, he was pretty thirsty on all the calls this week.
Why? What did he say?
Well, he was like when Peter was out there, he was like kind of like, oh man, it's the atmosphere, like it's just great seeing her, makes things so much better. And then there was he wanted her to do the chest pop, the chest pump or whatever that Taichi does. He was saying that for Miho. Yeah, it's like I like to see Miho do that. And Kevin's like, "Would you stop?"
Oh man.
So yeah, good stuff here. I went 4 stars flat on this one. Hit the notebook for me. Really enjoyed this one. And that brings us to the main event of the evening, the Rainmaker, and I can say that proudly, the Rainmaker. Kazuchika Okada is back. He defeats the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi 29 minutes and 36 seconds, literally coming down to the last few seconds before the 30-minute time limit draw. And I thought this was a masterpiece. Obviously, these guys, amazing chemistry. They never have a bad match. I know a lot of people were kind of low on the Dallas match, saying they were just kind of playing the hits. I mean, we were there live, and I loved that match. And I love this match as well, too. We saw a lot of the old Rainmaker Okada, a lot of the cocky one-foot cover, some of the different spots he was doing. I mean, he still incorporated the money clip, but we saw more of the Rainmaker combo, holding onto the wrist. We got the Rainmaker pose. And, of course, Tanahashi was excellent as well. We got the high fly flow to the outside and the dragon screws. And the counter of the Rainmaker into a small package towards the end, I bet on that. I thought Tanahashi was going to get him there. Just so many incredible counters back and forth. But it came down to the bread and butter, that Rainmaker. Bow. 1, 2, 3. Lights out for the U.S. champ. Okada gets 2 points. Danny, what do you think?
Well, Okada's my favorite. Well, you know that now. So I obviously went 7 stars on this. I went 4.5 on it. I thought it was great. It is very familiar when you watch these guys. It's like the same notes in a different arrangement, and it makes all the difference, right? Little things, right? Like Tana going to hit the ropes, but then he stops short and drop kicks right away. He drop kicks the knee right away. Just a lot of little things like that. And like kind of that development where Okada's finding himself again. He's going back to being the Rainmaker. The transition into the money clip off the rolled crossbody. The money clip is never going to be anybody's favorite, but at least he's finding something interesting to do with it here and there. And the sub does give him something else, like another plausible finish, right? Just going back to the Ishii and Shingo match, if I had to, again, criticize it, one thing is that there were no believable false finishes for Ishii in that match. I couldn't think of one where I sort of bit at all because he doesn't have other finishers, right? He has the Brainbuster. He doesn't have a submission. And, when's the last time he won a singles match of any significance with a powerbomb or a lariat, sliding or running, right? Like, so you take those things out and then it kind of ruins that you don't have another plausible finish. And these guys do, because you're not the only one that bit hard on that small package on the inside cradle. Like in the crowd too, the crowd gasped because it was so close. It was great. Red Shoes was perfect. Yeah, it was a really, really good match. And, I'm not sure. They got to pop off a headlock. They got an audible gasp. The black crowd got an audible gasp off a headlock reversal. That's when I was like, okay, this is, these guys are about to perform some art. I thought it was great. Okada had new gear. That's always a plus.
Yeah, he had the NXT 2.0 gear on.
Yes.
That's a bad sign. All right, I guess that we've seen the last of him after this G1.
It's better than the Long Boys.
It couldn't get much worse.
Those are my exact sentiments. I'm like, at least it's not the freaking long boys, you know?
Yeah, but no, I mean, I was fine on the gear either way. They were okay. But yeah, it was just a really, really good match that it's the kind of match where if you've been watching, you're rewarded, right? It's one of those things, right? That New Japan always rewards longtime viewers. I think they continue to do that, which is amazing because these guys have wrestled so many times, but they still find new ways to put things together. And as Tanahashi ages out a little more, he might be around another 10 years for all I know, but at this pace. But as he gets older and Okada is still in his physical prime, they can change the story a little bit, right? Because now it's 2 in a row that Okada has got over him. So it keeps things interesting. I really don't have, if I went 4.5, I could be talked into higher, a little bit higher. The only thing, that this match was missing was maybe, stakes, just, that it was just opening night.
Yeah. My biggest thing was just thinking that they'd kind of reached the highest of heights that they possibly, could reach, and pretty much done, told every story that was possible for them to tell, and the idea that, that Tanahashi would even be competitive or favored or be capable of beating Okada in 2021 just seemed kind of far-fetched to me. And now look where we're at,
Right. And yeah, and I thought also I went 4.5 on the match as well. I think the only thing that was missing was a sold out arena that could cheer and shout. I feel if they had that energy, it might have pushed it over the top. But like you mentioned, Josh, it's kind of crazy to think Tanahashi is still going at this high level. He's still competing against Okada and trying to beat him and prove that he's still the ace. And a lot of people had the Tanahashi upset alert, especially with him being the U.S. champ, and thinking that Okada would start cold, but starting hot here. And I think that's actually probably the right move, especially since Okada just lost to Jeff Cobb, and Okada's already had COVID and he's vaccinated now, so he should be one of those guys that should. I know you could probably get it again, but he might be a lock to kind of be one of the safe guys, and it might be his time. It's been a long time since he's won a G1 or been in a final, so I mean, this could be Okada's year.
Yeah, and that kind of makes the most sense if you really think about it, because just looking at Naito and how he kind of unceremoniously was dumped or got hurt and is out of the tournament. There's no telling what could happen between now and the end of the tournament. So like probably the smartest thing that you could possibly do if you have someone that is going to win and that's going to be favored is not to get too cute with it and probably just book them to win most of their matches. I know there are times where they've done like round robin scenarios and this guy gets the the tiebreaker over this guy and yada yada. I wouldn't even really mess with that. I'd do more like the classic All Japan Champions Carnival style booking. Have the guys that are going to win look just strong as fuck. That way you're not even really messing around too much.
Right.
Makes sense. I also thought that Tanahashi might have won this one. Like I thought there was a good chance, right? He's kind of surging with the U.S. title just to give that a little bit more shine. But it's a long tournament. He's got plenty of wins to pick up. So I think it probably was the right thing to establish Okada early, like Josh said, for those reasons.
We have some questions here, but one question I want to ask you guys, because this is something I've heard a lot of people talk about. What are your thoughts on them continuously teasing the 30-minute stretch match after match in some of these like main events? Because we're hearing I've seen some complaints about it online, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a narrative that kind of runs throughout the tournament, or if it's something that's just happening in these early shows.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I do think this might be a narrative that we see throughout this tournament. A lot of these main events kind of pushing to that 30-minute time. I mean, they've already been doing that pre-G1 because they want to get people their money's worth and have the long New Japan main events. But now I think they can turn that into a story element with there being a hard set 30-minute time limit. So I do think we might see that play out more. We might actually get a draw. I think it's been a while since we've seen a draw in a G1, so maybe this is the year. There's a lot of big guys that gotta face each other. Maybe a draw comes down the line.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I personally don't have a problem if it keeps going like that, if they keep getting close, because so far, the 3 matches we saw that were pretty close to the time limit, was it 3 or 4? They weren't guys where that's unbelievable, where they typically don't go that long at all.
Right.
But no, this is Okada, Tanahashi, this is Naito, Saber, Ishii, Takagi. That it makes sense that they get close to that time limit. If they're dragging out Yujiro Abushi 30 minutes, then we have to sit down and have a talk, right? but they're not doing that. So as long as they're not doing it just for the sake of getting close to 30 minutes, as long as they're doing it in matches where it makes sense, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, let's move on to some of these questions real quick. Dom Homie 101 asked, thoughts on the return of the legend that's known as the Rainmaker?
I think it was great to see Okada kind of returning slowly back to form and just incorporating the Rainmaker more and using the Rainmaker to get the win here. And then, in the post-match promo, admitting to the fans, like, I haven't been, the Okada that you're used to. You haven't seen the top Okada performance lately. Well, that's changing, and the Rainmaker is back. And so I could do it less money clip, but it was good to see him bringing back the Rainmaker and getting the big win with that and starting to use that again.
Yeah, agreed. I think if he's going to use the Rainmaker on anyone, he would be his greatest rival, right? That would be one where he's like, forget it, I know this works, I'm going to do this move, put this guy away, as opposed to being hard-headed and trying to get the money clip over, trying to get the win with that. So, yeah, I think it's the right play right now, too. I mean, as far as the company goes, like you said, he's healthy. And they've got 3 nights to fill at the Dome. If Okada is on 2 of those nights in the main, I don't think anybody would blink, right? That's Okada. That's kind of what he does, right? And then you have, that simplifies the rest of the booking somewhat.
His next question, are Okada and Tanahashi each other's best rival and opponent?
Interesting question. I think it's an easy question for me. I'll just tell you straight up. Yes, absolutely, they're each other's best opponent. Yes, absolutely, they're each other's best rival. And I think when you quantify it by putting those 2 things together, you might have an argument for other opponents that are like just pure in-ring gold with them, and you might have other guys that are, have heated rivalries with them. We can, you can list your Nakamuras, you can list your Omegas and all that. But if you really amalgamate those 2 things, what is the best in-ring and, pure rivalry? I mean, Okada Tanahashi, you're talking about Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. You're talking about Ric Flair and Rick Steamboat. You're talking about Takada, you're talking about Misawa and Kawada. You're talking about the all-time best rivalries. And in ring, sure, Okada Omega might be better, but like nobody has knocked it out of the park on as high of a level as often as Okada and Tanahashi, period. It's the greatest rivalry in the history of wrestling. Yeah, I was going to say people could potentially argue Omega for Okada, but without the Tanahashi rivalry, is there an Omega Okada? That the Tanahashi rivalry sets the foundation, creates Okada, gets him over, and it was a rivalry that really took the company into an upswing to where it was the last few years.
Yeah, and you can make the same argument for Nakamura and Tanahashi as well, and the long-term importance of that rivalry as well. But I don't think anything really touches Okada Tanahashi, period.
You know what I'm going to say? Yeah. Well, it defines a whole era, right? Like you said, Misawa Kawada, right? It's Steamboat Flair. It defines this era, right? Like, what is a great match in this time, a great rivalry, a great feud? It's this, right? So I think that alone puts it, and you could single out individual matches that maybe you rank higher, right? Like the Omega series or Nakamura with Tana. But yeah, I totally agree that it's so identifiable as like, this was the main thing in New Japan for these years. This was it. This was the centerpiece of the whole company.
Right.
Next question from Chalk Talak. They asked, were you also underwhelmed by Okada randomly busting out the Rainmaker in day 1 and putting Tanahashi away with it with only seconds to spare?
Randomly, how dare you? No, no, I kind of get that criticism, right? Because maybe you wanted to build up to like, a later show that's more important, that's more pivotal in points and stuff like that. I sort of understand that criticism, but I think again, if they have to put that night one, he's going to do it against Tanahashi, right? That's the right opponent to bust that out for. So, I'm totally cool with it, but I do get the criticism if you're hoping for like a more of a slow build and like more of tease. Maybe he goes for it, misses it, and then later on down the stretch when it really counts, he hits it.
Did you guys want him to do the money clip all year like he did last year? I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah, I was not overwhelmed. I was pleased. I mean, we've gotten the whole long build for Okada when he was, Balloon Okada. He tried to build back up to what he was. And like you mentioned, we've seen the money clip all year. We've been seeing this. It has been a long play of him finally really, using the Rainmaker. So I don't think we need to build up the G1 for the Rainmaker again. I think we did the right thing of setting the pace, setting the tempo for what kind of Okada we're going to see in this tournament, where we're getting the Rainmaker back. That's the kind of pace, that's the tempo we're going to see for the rest of the tournament. Dude,
the other thing too is Okada's been watching Tanahashi and seen him like surge, and he's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "I'm going back to Old Faithful. I'm gonna put him down with the same move that I know works. I'm not fucking around with no with a money clip, Okay, this guy, we can't be playing games with Tanahashi. Okay, I'm not gonna get embarrassed on the first day of the G1 against, old ass Tanahashi. Fuck that,
That was my point.
Hold this, go to sleep, and guess what? I'm serving Rainmakers up on the menu for the rest of you motherfuckers for the entire tournament. Everyone can get some. I hope this guy goes undefeated. I hope Okada just fucks up the B block,
It's quite possible he could.
Not Jeremy, but you did make a great point there where you talked about that. We have seen kind of a build toward it. It's just, if you think of that G1 as kind of like self-contained, isolated, then yeah, it was day one. How could he do it on the first day? But if you've been watching all along, it's, the culmination. This day one is the culmination of the whole year.
Last couple questions just about the G1 here. Fit_beautiful2638. Serious question. Who do you think stepped up the most in the first 2 days? Tama Tonga, Yujiro, Chase, or somebody else?
What do you think, Nanny?
I think all those guys performed fine. I wouldn't say Yujiro because, like I said, the match was, he was capable. It wasn't anything special. It was just the ending, right? The ending kind of put it over the top. Chase was solid as always. I guess Tama, right? Because, like I said, this is the first time that I haven't been disappointed because I get my hopes up for Tama because I really like Tama Tonga. Like, I think he's a really super athlete, super charismatic. Can I share a quick story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
When we went to MSG, the MSG show, this girl sitting next to me, she was going bananas for Tama Tonga. Like, she was like, "That's my boo, that's my baby." She's screaming, right? Screaming the whole time. Dude, she didn't know anyone else on this card. And I mean, Okada came out. She was like, "Who's that?"
Wow.
She's just this is the hold that Tama has on his fans. Okay, this is the connection he has with some of these fans. So I consider him a super charismatic guy, really great athlete, and I've often been disappointed when he gets like singles matches because they're not that good. This was really good. I thought this was really, really good, and I think the best is yet to come for him because, like I said, Sonata's a great opponent for him. They're very familiar, but he does have those tendencies that bother me. And like that person said, like, is he a dummy? That question that we got. So I expect better things. Like, I'm really looking forward to some of these matches with Tama.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I would go Tama. I mean, Chase is definitely a good option, but I feel like Chase has always kind of been good, just never really gotten the opportunity, whereas Tama Tonga has gotten opportunities before in the past. Like you mentioned, very good stuff here with Sonata. And again, the cheating, there wasn't much cheating. I mean, Jado really didn't get involved that much, and Tama really didn't do much cheating. He wrestled clean for the most part, high pace, a lot of great, stuff into the gun stun. And so, like you mentioned, I think this is not the best we've seen. I think we're probably going to see even better, or at least this level throughout the tournament, which will be a very good thing for Tama Tonga.
Nice. Last couple questions here from Rainbow and Slam Pig. He asked, who was surprised the most so far in terms of performance, either positively or negatively?
I think we kind of answered that. I think most positively is probably Tama.
Is there anybody that has underperformed so far, in your opinion?
I don't know if anybody's underperformed. I mean, I still want to see more from Okan and Tangaloa in their other matches.
That's based on the review you guys gave. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind. What are those guys? But it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't. They would have underperformed if I expected like something more than that. But I expected kind of a gentleman's 3, and that's kind of what we got.
On the first 2 nights, which of the 2 main events was better in your view? I'm having a hard time picking, which is a major credit to all 4 performers.
I'm not. That's the Rainmaker. Yeah, no, I like that match more. I thought it was like I said, it's just one of those matches where you're like, and I'm actually not really smart about things like this. Like when I see it and like I can pick up on like, oh, that's a callback to like this match, the 3 matches ago, blah blah. Usually it takes me a while, some rewatches for that stuff to sink in. But you could tell like there was a lot going on here. Like these 2 guys know each other really well, and like I said, like the headlock reversal when they got a pop off of that in like the first few minutes, I was like, oh, like these guys, they're here to do the thing. But that doesn't mean that's not to take anything away from Ishii and Shingo. It's a completely different kind of match, right? Like sometimes it's like, how do you even compare those? Like
right.
If you're in the mood just to watch, big beefy men slapping meat, but, Shingo and Ishii is it. It's it by a landslide, But if you want a different kind of match with like, kind of like that slowish build, with grappling and then some high spots and then they're exhausted and they're, that kind of thing, then obviously it would be Okada and Tama.
Yeah, for me, I would go with Shingo and Ishii. I mean, by a very slight margin. I mean, I went 4.75 on Shingo Ishii. I went 4.5 on Tanahashi and Okada. But to me, for Shingo and Ishii, the violence was just on a whole nother level, and just the pace they worked within that near 30-minute match, and the lariats, the chops, and just everything that they put their bodies through in that match. And I think both guys are incredible sellers, especially Ishii. So that put it over for me. But again, both incredible matches. I could be swayed to a 4.75 for Okada and Tanahashi, and I could see why some people might like that match a little bit more, like you, Dane, than Ishii and Shingo.
Yeah, that's a good argument to have, right? Which of these 2 did you prefer? That's a good problem to have, where you just can't pick.
Nice. Well, we've got 3 nights coming up on the 23rd, 24th, and 26th. Jeremy, did you just want to run through those cards real quick, or did you want to preview? I wasn't sure how you're doing that.
I mean, we can do a preview, maybe just give some quick predictions on who we think is going over these next 3 nights.
Okay, nice. So September 23rd in Ota Ward, we've got Shingo Takagi against Zack Sabre Jr. What are we thinking that night?
So that's the main event that night, and that's going to be a big match. Both guys coming in with big wins, and then also this match got even more personal now, as
right.
Sabre has taken out Shingo's friend and leader of LIJ. So Shingo also fighting for his friend. So this should be a very interesting main event. I don't know if have we seen Sabre and Shingo wrestle in New Japan?
Not that I can recall, and it might be a first time ever match. I'd have to take a look and double check that, but I could do that real quick.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how. I mean, we've seen Sabre and Ishii, and they have great matches. So I think that's going to be a similar kind of chemistry here with Shingo and Sabre. So I'm really looking forward to this one. But I'm going to go Shingo for the win.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't have really great reason other than he's the champion, and I think they're going to save his losses for people they can do more with, like, right? Oh, maybe, I mean, that might end up being Zack, right? Like we said, 3 nights to fill at Wrestle Kingdom, and Zack is the kind of guy you could strap the rocket to at any point. But right now, it's probably Shingo.
So I think this one's really interesting because so early on we're getting a match that's going to matter later on in the tournament. I think I'm going to go with Zack. Just in case it comes down to a tiebreaker situation, because Shingo's going to be booked pretty strong the rest of the tournament. I think you need an audible here and probably have Zack beat him somehow, and then that way they can finish with pretty comparable point totals. Of course, maybe that's not the way they're going, and maybe do just have Shingo win. But I'm gonna put my bet on Zach here. Also, this doesn't help much, but they have one recorded singles match from WXW 16 Karat Gold Tournament in 2009. It was a semifinal match, and Shingo did defeat ZSJ 9 minutes and 27 seconds. So, guessing this one will go longer than that.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that WXW match, but I wanted to see if you could find it.
Oh, nice. I believed you, actually. So kind of going, I'll go back to the bottom of the card. So we're opening up the night, Toriano against Great Okan. What are we thinking for that one?
I'm thinking Okan gets the win here, get revenge from the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, I think Okan needs to beat Toriano.
Agreed.
Just because. So all three of us are in agreement. We also have Kenta versus Yujiro, second match of the night.
So we got Bullet Club here versus House of Torture Bullet Club. So it's going to be interesting to see how, if any of that kind of plays out. I'm gonna go with Kenta here. We'll go to sleep.
Yeah, both guys coming off losses. Kenta probably needs the win a little bit more.
No, Yujiro's coming off a win with a big juice.
Oh my God, you're right. I'm just so used to him losing. And Kenta really needs the win.
But real quick, there was another question about Yujiro that I missed from the Discord from EMJ Does PR. He says, who has the biggest juice, Huge or Juice Robinson?
I don't know.
Have you reconsidered your policy of reading every question you get?
It's equal. They had the same size juice.
I think we need to ask Peter.
What are you implying right now?
I think she would know who has the bigger juice.
Okay. Jeremy's just gone off the deep end on this episode. We also have the gimme match for Tangaloa against Yuji Nagata. I'm pretty sure we all assume Tangaloa's winning that one. And then the semi-main event of the night, Kota Bushi taking on Tomohiro Ishii. The war in the G1 that will never end. I hope these guys just coexist in the same block for all eternity.
Yeah, should be incredible. I'm going to go with Big Tom. Have Abushi start real cold, maybe start 0-3, and then rattle off 6 at the end.
Yeah, that's kind of what I envision too. I think it's going to be, he's going to get closer, he's going to improve, and then he's going to hit his stride, right? So he's not going to get the win here. That's
got to be after the Ujiro loss, you got to figure that that's what's happening. But yeah, I'll ride with you guys. So September 24th, Ota Ward, we open up the night, Hiroshi Tanahashi against Hiroki Goto. Old country beef. What are we thinking there?
Pretty interesting match to be the opener on this show. I would have probably thrown this more semi-main or more of the mid-card. It should be a great way to kick off the night. Tanahashi might take a little bit of a night off after that banger with Okada. But I'm going to go with Tanahashi bouncing back and getting a win.
Yeah, that is an extremely wild pick for Curtain Jerker with Tama Tonga and Chase Owens on the same card. Yeah, I think Tana probably. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm bad at this. I'm really bad at these picks.
The thing is with Goto, he's that guy that can beat anybody on any night, no matter who it is, pretty much. So, you just never know with him. I'm going to go with Tanahashi, but I wouldn't be surprised if Goto actually beats him.
Yeah, I just want to double check to make sure that's actually...
that can't be right.
The
Chase Owens, man.
Right, that can't be right.
Yeah, because that looks like that could easily be like the semi-main event. You got it as the opener.
Yeah, I copied this from Big Dave, so if it's a bot.
Bro, they're always wrong. Stop copying from Wrestling Observer.
No, so 1972. Yeah, Tanahashi Goto it's the first match.
Hey, well, they're starting off hot. So
this is Super Bowl 2, is what you're telling me. This is Liger versus Pillman.
We got Tama Tonga versus Chase Owens and the second match of the night.
I'm gonna go with Tama.
Same.
I'll just go with you guys because I don't know. After that, we have Yoshihashi and Jeff Cobb.
I think Cobb is gonna be another guy that's gonna start off hot, probably end cold. So yeah, have Cobb toss Yoshihashi around here.
I think Yoshihashi's going to take a tour of the islands, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then the semi-main event, we've got Sonata versus Taichi. Is there not a preview? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's only on the A block nights. Sonata versus Taichi, semi-main event action.
I can see Taichi taking this. Yeah,
Sonata's winning this.
You think so?
Yeah, it's Sonata.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with Sonata just because Naito lost to Zack. So I figured you need the other tag partner to beat the other tag partner in case they wanted to set up a tag title match, which also they can't do now because Naito's hurt. But yeah, I'll go with Sonata here, even though I would prefer Taichi to win.
That's pretty much the boat I'm in. I'm just like, I think they're going to treat Taichi well, but I don't think he's beaten Sonata, the guy that was, a finalist in the G1 the year before.
Right.
They could. I mean, I think Taichi could take that victory and, it would be totally, if not the right thing to do, it would be acceptable, People were like, oh, okay, Taichi's that guy. I know. Taichi is that guy at that level.
I'm not against it. And, it's the G1, so anything could happen. But the main event of the night, we've got the match everyone's been waiting for. The Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada versus Evil.
Yeah, it's a testament to how unwatchable Evil matches are that the last Okada versus Evil wasn't any good. Okada is someone who can elevate opponents, right? He's like a Takahashi. They can bring out the best in their opponents, and I just don't see it. This might be super bad too, because with someone level of Okada, Evil's probably going to have more shenanigans. He's going to have the garrote. He's going to have some crazy stuff. Show's going to be there, with the chaos angle, right? So it could get bad. I don't know. And I have no faith in this match to be even decent.
Yeah, and it's also tough because these guys are going to be two guys that are going to be finishing 12 points at the top of the block. They're going to be fighting till the very last night. So this is a very crucial match for both of these guys for the rest of the tournament. However, I am going to go with Okada just because of the whole Rainmaker being back. He never really used the Rainmaker a ton with Evil in this run. And so that could be the big difference that kind of puts him over Evil.
I just have to believe in the light and the goodness and go with Kazuchika Okada. But this is a winnable match for Evil. So it's hard to, especially if they want to kind of especially if Okada is going to win this tournament and they're trying to gear Evil up for some sort of main event run, it logically does make sense to me for them to have a lot of cheating, have Evil go over. I just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the Rainmaker's back speech, I think it's likely that his losses are more down the stretch. Like if Okada has to lose, it's going to be more, as the tournament wears on and, it takes its toll on him. He's hurt from previous matches, that sort of thing. I think that would make sense. I think he would throw a bucket of cold water on people right now if he's like, the Rainmaker's back and then I just lost to you.
Yeah.
September 26th.
Hold on, Jeff. Let me do this one because the card changed up a little bit with the order with Naito being injured, and there's also a Young Lion match too. So it's going to open up with Master Wato against Vegeta in the non-tournament opener. Guessing Wato is going to win that one.
Yeah.
Then the second match will be the replacement match. It'll be Yuji Nagata versus Shingo Takagi in the second match.
I just figured they're headlining that. I'm like, badass, Shingo Nagata headline, yes. But I if I was them, I'd have Nagata go over. Just keep it fresh, keep it spicy.
Get another challenger in there for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nagata should win all these matches and be like, I should have been in the G1. I beat all these people in the G1. I want a shot. I want a taste.
I was hoping that he would be the replacement guy every night, and then he was basically just still in the G1.
Right.
And that would be awesome. But yeah, Shingo's gonna pumping bomber him to hell. So
yeah. Then the third match will be Great Okan versus Yujiro Takahashi.
I don't even know what to think about that match right now. I don't know. I'm going to go with Okan, I guess.
Yeah, I think Okan will knock off the big juice here and get the win.
Yeah, that's probably right. I'm more concerned. Like, I don't really care who wins that one, but I'm more concerned like that about the clash of styles, right? Like, just in your head, like, can you see that match? Can you picture like how that's gonna go and be good or be decent, right? Yeah, it's just one of those things where like I don't see these guys gelling at all. Now, Yujiro is gonna prove me wrong and go berserk. But okay,
He's gonna bust.
Who are you to doubt? Huge.
We shall see. We shall see.
Then fourth match of the night will be Toru Yano versus Tangaloa.
Yeah, I've got a.
You can tell our excitement with the silence.
I got
that pregnant pause.
You know, Yano only gets a couple wins, per year, and they're usually over pretty big guys for important reasons. So I'm pretty sure Tangaloa is going to beat him.
Yeah, and I think they probably want to sprinkle that, further apart, the Yano shenanigans.
Yeah,
leading to an actual win.
Yeah, I mean, he got his win over Kenta. He's coming with 2 points. Tangaloa lost to Greater Khan. So, yeah, I think this is a good match for Tangaloa to win and get some points on the board. Then the semi-main event will be Tomohiro Ishii versus Kenta.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. We've seen them have some great matches in the past, and I'm looking forward to that. In this case, I'm going to go with Kenta, because he usually seems to have Ishii's number. I don't know, man. Part of me is saying go Ishii. You know what? I'm going Ishii. I'm going to listen to my gut,
I just had that same, like a very similar internal struggle, but I came out with Kenta on top because I think that's, I don't know. I think it's important that kind of get, 2 points over somebody credible like Ishii, and Ishii will be able to take that loss at this point.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Kenta. I mean, we have Ishii, beating Abushi on the 23rd, and Kenta needs to get some points on the board as well. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with Kenta. This should be a great match. I really enjoyed their the Royal Quest match, and a lot of people kind of hated on that match, but I think these guys have good chemistry. I'm looking forward to it. Then the main event will be Kota Bushi versus Zack Sabre Jr.
That sounds awesome. Say what you will about these cards, they're at least giving us some really great main events and top of the card stuff. So, I had Sabre going back to back the 2 nights. Yeah, I think he needs to beat Abushi here too. I think Abushi's got to lose the first 3 nights. So, and that's kind of his redemption story, his slump. So, yeah, I think I'm going ZSJ.
Yeah, I'm going to go Zach as well. Yeah, really have Abushi hitting rock bottom and having to, really refine himself and fight towards the end here. Then again, I'll give Sabre a big win and kind of keep Sabre alive going down the line as well.
Yeah, I have a similar line of thought. I only hesitate because Ibushi taking 3 losses, doesn't that make it kind of predictable, right? That he's going to surge towards the end, right? Like, but then again, it might be predictable for a reason because that's what they usually do. So I'll take Sabre, but I'm not super confident in that.
I do think it's possible he only takes the 2 losses and then gets the comeback win against Sabre. So I'm not discounting that either. And that might be the way to go, but this term is so hard to call this time.
Yeah, it is. So unpredictable, like with just the booking, the COVID, the injuries, like who knows what's going to happen. Well, that wraps up our G1 coverage for this week. Also, next week we'll be back to review those 3 shows and preview the next set of nights. So now we're going to shift gears to New Japan Strong. And this past Saturday, we had the start of the Fighting Spirit Unleashed tour, the taping with fans that they did in California the Monday after Resurgence. So this was, the new time, Saturday, 8 p.m. on New Japan World. Show opened up with Tomohiro Ishii defeating Alex Coughlin.
Hard hitting. I really enjoyed this show. I did get a chance to watch Strong. Me and Jeremy watched that together Saturday night. And, yeah, man, Ishii, Coughlin's awesome. Ishii, another one of these guys in his challenge series. The hard-fought match, good action. But Ishii put him away.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too. Coglin's clearly ready, right? He's only a young lion in name, right? He's clearly at that level where he could go. It was a short match though, right? It was like 9 minutes. Um, I thought the live crowd helps the show, right? Because live crowd, obviously, wrestling is meant to be performed in front of people, but I thought they were still kind of like very reserved for an American crowd, especially. I was like, why aren't they louder? Because this match is pretty good, And especially, I mean, I don't know how long they were there at that point. Like, was this like a taping that happened right after something else? Or
No, this was the
no?
start of the
It wasn't, right?
tapings, but it was like I think like 500 fans. It was a small crowd, but it was like a diehard New Japan fan base that are more respectful and actually, watch.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we'll actually watch the match and then like clap and cheer as the match gets going. So yeah, it might have started off quiet, but I thought it was good.
But
Like,
how will people know that this is awesome, Jeremy? I don't understand.
nobody told them to fight forever. How will they know to keep fighting?
Ridiculous.
But yeah, I thought the match was really good, and like you mentioned,
I wanted to know which guy, if it was one of these guys
or both
of these guys.
But yeah, I do think, having the fans, like we mentioned, adds a ton to the energy for this show. That was all the show was really missing. Yeah, great here, and a great opener here. Tomoichi in the Brainbuster on Coughlin. So in the mid-match, we had Clark
The mid-match.
Well, not that way mid. The middle match, the second match. We had Clark Connors, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Carl Fredericks defeating the Stray Dog Army of Barrett Brown, Bateman, and Mysterioso, 13 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yes, that happened. Yeah, it was fine. It was I didn't even write down a rating. I guess I didn't remember it that well.
I dug this quite a bit, just like kind of the novelty of like meshing the worlds of like, we got the Stray Dog Army and all the kind of like internal like stories going on with them. And then obviously Connors and Fredericks, but then you kind of just throw Tanahashi into the mix, and it's like this giant big superstar. It's like, truly like an excursion match. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like when like Mil Mascaras would like show up places and do like 6-man tags, or like Dusty Rhodes or something like that. This big outside star shows up and he like teams with the local baby faces to get over on the bad guys. And I thought the match was good at 13 minutes. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome, and I thought everyone looked all like 6 of these guys are studs. So
yeah, good match. I think having Tanahashi on Strong definitely helps. Bringing one of the mainstays, one of the top stars on the show was a great look, and then teaming him up with Fredericks and Connors, 2 guys that you're looking to be the future of this company, especially this Strong brand. And so yeah, fun little matchup here. Carl Fredericks gets the win for the team, and then post-match, he cuts a promo calling out Will Ospreay, wants to prove that he's not a young boy anymore. Ospreay is there, comes out, confronts him, pretty much says, you're still a young boy, and they have a brawl, and Ospreay leaves him laying and says he'll see him in Texas, young boy. So
yeah, that was cool. I thought that was good. Like that's how you build matches, right? He comes out there, Ospreay's looking every bit part of champion, right? He looked great. Carl rips off his slim fit dress shirt and starts going to town, and then Ospreay hits him with the hidden blade. That looked good too. Yeah, I thought that's very like booking 101, right? That's what should have happened. Instead of just going cold into the next show, let's do something. And yeah, I thought it built heat. I'd be excited if I had tickets for that show.
Yeah. We had a question from Chalk to Lock. Who is the best young lion out of the LA dojo, and why is it Clark Connors? What do you guys think?
Connors is really good. He's I don't know about that nickname, but it's also kind of fitting, right?
The Wild Rhino.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really good. I mean, ever like is this out of LA dojo ever? I don't know. Fredericks is really good too. I mean, it's hard to say. Like it's so early in their careers, right? It's so early, and one guy is still kind of young lion status. I mean, he has a nickname, but he doesn't have anything else, right?
Yeah, what's funny though? This might be a hot take, but like, I'm kind of more one of the Noge Dojo guys. Like, there was a period like a year or 2 ago where I thought the LA Dojo guys were smoking, Suji and Narita and all them, and Yui Mora. But like, Not anymore, man. I'm kind of like much higher on Uemura and Tsuji right now. And then even just seeing like what's going on with Oiwa and like Fujita, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I really, really, really like the LA Dojo guys, all of them. But I'm like, they might want to step it up. They got some competition coming their way, you know.
Yeah, Tsuji especially for me. I really, really like Tsuji a lot. It's also really hard to compare because they're in different kinds of matches, and I mean, we'll see it more like at Tsuji's on Excursion, but the Strong is a different product, right? Like it feels very different. The match structures are different. It's more like kind of indie style, a lot of the matches. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You know, I love Rich Lattice Pro Wrestling. But so it's hard to compare. It's hard to, like I think Tsuji looks great in the matches he's having. Maybe Connors and Fredericks would look great, in that style of match also.
Yeah. The dirty secret, Rich Lattice Pro Wrestling is just any good pro wrestling. He's just thrown his name on everything that's good.
For me, I think I'm more of a Fredericks guy. I mean, he's a guy that's been pushing, obviously, but I do think, at least for right now, I think he's kind of still at top. I mean, Connors is awesome, so is Coughlin, kind of that original class of guys, but I don't know. I just think there's probably a little bit more upside with Fredericks. So then the main event of the evening, tables match. We had Hikuleo defeating Juice Robinson 9 minutes and 57 seconds.
I would go as far as to say this might be my favorite of the like major stipulation blow-off matches on Strong. They've had a few of them now, and I feel like this was maybe the best one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good. I mean, they did a great job building to the match and also building up. They had Hikuleo lay out Juice the previous night to set the previous Strong, set this whole table match up. And, yeah, I thought they worked really hard. There was a lot of great table, near bumps. Juice took a nasty landing. He did try to do that senton. He's supposed to go through table, but kind of bounced. He had a I am the table moment there. But yeah, fun matchup here. Hikuleo puts Juice through the table. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I thought it was a fun match. It is a little strange that a blow-off match is like 10 minutes.
Well, it's not the blow-off. We got some news.
Yeah.
We got some news on that.
Right. So it's not the blow-off, but it sort of felt like it was going to be the blow. Like, to you, your tables match. I'm like, okay, but
it was a blow-off to me.
In fact, was like the Buried Alive match, and then they're going to do the Hell in the Cell later. Like the stipulation match was not it. Yeah, that was a nasty bump. I also really didn't like I didn't like to see it. It was good, for the match, but the top rope slam, Juice to the leg side of the table, who was laying down with legs up, and he landed on that. I was like, oh, that could go wrong so easily, like you just mess your whole shit up. But yeah, otherwise, like it's impressive to see Hikuleo coming along, right? There was a point there where like I thought like this guy's not gonna reach that next level, right? Like he's stagnating, but. Excursion system works. He is reaching that next level. He looks confident. He looks good, and he's getting better all the time. He's doing little things, that make sense in the match. He's not awkward at all, like he used to be. So yeah, it was a good little match. But that's how I describe it. It was kind of a short match, right? It was sub 10 minutes.
Yeah, good little main event here. We had a question from Rambone Slam Pig. Has Juice reached his ceiling as a lower mid-carder in NJPW? Jobbing to the likes of Hikuleo. What would it take to get him sorted out? At one point, he seemed to be a possible star.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit harsh. I mean, Juice Robinson was a star. He headlined, shows and held major titles, and literally the trajectory of his career only started to kind of go down after the big loss to Mox, essentially. I think that for me, he started to repackage himself a little bit during that Mox match when he cut his hair off. And it was a signifier that like, okay, I'm going somewhere different with this character moving forward. And then he took the loss. And then afterwards, when he came back, it was Blues Brothers. It was, this and that. And, it just kind of felt like
the paint taker.
Yeah, the fake taker. He reverted as a character and kind of lost a little bit of a sense of like the direction of his career. And, you know, a lot of it doesn't help that it all seemed to coincide at the same time as, you know, COVID. I mean, the guy can still go. He still has great matches. He's still an incredible performer. But, you know, as far as like that story of him starting as a young lion and then, you know, having the feuds with Goto and him having the feuds with Kenny Omega and the feud with, you know, this guy and that guy and, you know, Cody Rhodes and all that, that stuff's kind of gone past. And so he either is done. In my opinion, he's either pretty much done in New Japan and needs to leave the territory, go somewhere else and do something else, or he needs to be totally repackaged, new, fresh coat of paint. I'm not saying change him entirely, but I am saying like this character needs to change. He needs new life.
Yeah, well, we're seeing him in another territory, right? He goes to TNA, he's the same juice. So I don't know if that's the solution to anything. And I started to cut you off, Jeremy.
What's TNA?
Impact, my bad.
Impact Wrestling, pal.
I'm old, man. But yeah, I mean, I think it's that. I think he has to be repackaged because he's you know how like they say like most guys like need to be an extension of themselves or an amplified version of themselves. I feel like Juice is one of those guys. It's the opposite with him. I think you have to fight, you know, his tendencies to just be that I'm just here to have a good time character and the jester character, because we've seen that there's only so much mileage you can get out of that. No matter who you are, right? At a certain point, it gets kind of corny and gets kind of played out and you just don't want to see it anymore because it's not well defined. It's just a thing, right? Like I'm just a party guy, right? Like he's doing the Blues Brothers. He's like, what is that? Like, it's nothing. It's just whatever, you know, pops into his head. I think if he was to turn heel and like, so like he's with a faction that has some identity, right? That he would be much better off to just, yes, he would be playing against type because that's not what he would naturally do. But I think that's what he needs. He needs like to be more disciplined so he can be serious in the ring. Because when he's serious in the ring, he's really good. You know, he's really, I still remember like a Goto match that he had with in G1, I think a few years ago. And it was great. It was a great match. And it was like the first match where I saw it where he wasn't like assing off and just like, you know, like he gets serious, then he gets silly, then he gets serious, then he gets silly. No, I mean, he's a really good wrestler. And if he was just serious, like people would take him seriously. But at this point, it's like, the Rambones might be a little harsh, you know, but he's not entirely wrong that, like, yeah, he's kind of a lower mid-carder at this point. But he's, as far as talent goes, he's better than that. I think he could be more near the top of the card.
He was an upper mid-carder. That's now a lower mid-card.
Right, but there's no reason he couldn't be at that, like at that level still. Like has he physically diminished? Not at all. I don't think so. Like he's still probably close to his physical prime. And you know, as far as like being a veteran and like, you know, knowing enough to have great matches with a bunch of different people, he's at that level too. It's just, I feel like this whole gimmick or lack of gimmick or whatever it is really kind of holds him back because it kind of defines like the whole structure of the match. He's talking to the fans and then we're supposed to take him seriously. The next second, it's just very awkward.
Yeah, I think part of it too is kind of, might have something to do with the whole Gaijin unrest and maybe what Jesus' status is. You know, maybe after his contract is up, maybe he wants to leave New Japan, and maybe the office knows that he's going to leave, and so they're not booking him super high because he's going to leave, but they're, you know, giving him some interesting programs and using him to help get Hikuleo over and help get some of these other younger guys over, and that might be the case. Or maybe that's the case. Maybe Jesus is just happy with what he's doing. He's happy being this you know, smiley mid-card baby face. He's getting a paycheck. He gets to work Impact. He gets to stay here in the States, work strong, and maybe that's all he wants to do. So who knows? I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if that's the case, more power to him.
Yeah.
But in either case, I thought he did a really great job making Hikuleo look good in this match.
So next week on Strong, the Fighting Spirit Unleashed tour will continue. The show will open up. We'll have Yuji Nagata on the show, teaming up with Yuya Uemura, taking on Kevin Knight in the DKC. Then the second match will be Switchblade Jay White against the Best Friends Wheeler Yuta. And then the big main event, the hottest feud going in New Japan Pro Wrestling today, Mr. No Days Off Red Rosser takes on Ren Narita, and we know people who have been at taping and said this is an absolute banger. They've done a great job heating this rivalry up between Narita and Rosser, and I'm really looking forward to this main event here.
Very much ready for that. Been waiting for some time now. So.
And in other strong news, we have the Autumn Attack tapings happening this weekend in Texas, Saturday, September 25th and 26th. A new match was announced. We talked a lot about Juice and Hikuleo. These guys will be facing off in a Texas bull rope match on September 26th for the tapings here, and this was made official after Hikuleo got the win over Juice. So these guys kind of going back and forth here in the rivalry continuing. Tickets still on sale for Texas, and we have the full lineups here for both shows. So on September 25th, on Saturday, we'll have Minoru Suzuki versus Fred Rosser, Will Ospreay versus Carl Fredericks, Jay White versus Robbie Eagles, TJP, Clark Connors, Leo Rush, and Juice Robinson versus Hikuleo, Chris Bay, Taiji Ishimori, and ELP, Tom Lawler versus Ren Narita, Ryusuke Taguchi, Rocky Romero, the Mega Coaches versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. Then on night 2, September 26th, Texas bull rope match will be Juice Robinson and Hikuleo. Then we'll have the Suzuki Gun reunion, Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer versus Team Filthies, Tom Lawler and Royce Isaac. We have Leo Rush versus Taiji Ishimori, Switchblade, Jay White versus Red Death, Daniel Garcia. Will Ospreay will be having a mystery partner to take on Carl Fredericks and Clark Connors. And we have a question here from Viking Pain. Says, I don't know if you guys have heard about this or anything, but what's going on with Will Ospreay and Chris Hero? Are they working, or is this some sort of angle on Twitter? So have you guys seen the interactions of Ospreay and Hero?
Yeah, I sort of caught up on that. It just seemed like Ospreay being, unlikable on Twitter, as is his wont, right?
Just a troll.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it didn't make sense. It wasn't like super coherent. I thought if they were working, it would be clearer.
Yeah, I mean,
that was just my impression.
Ospreay teasing, maybe a Hero will come help me, and Chris was like, I made this very clear. I'll make it even clearer. Delete this tweet. I don't want you using my name to get fans excited to make them think I'm going to be there, and I'm not going to be there. So it doesn't seem like this is a work and Hero's working along. It seems like Ospreay's just, playing up people who could possibly, he teased Buddy Murphy. He said a buddy of mine might come. He's teasing all these people. And so Hero didn't seem very happy that he was being one of the guys teased.
Unless it's a super work, unless like they are going to be doing something together, but they really want to throw you off the scent. So, they do this meta work basically,
So 4D chess going on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah, that could be it. Other matchups, we have Robbie Eagles and Chris Dickinson versus ELP and Chris Bay, and then TJP will take on Yuya Uemura. Then we got some matches announced for the New Japan Showdown that will be happening in Philadelphia at the ECW Arena, 2300 Arena there on Saturday, October 16th and 17th. We'll have Minoru Suzuki versus Chris Dickinson on the 16th, and then Will Ospreay against Alex Zane on the 17th. And just as I looked on the website, some more matches were announced. So we're going to have on night 1, Juice Robinson versus El Phantasmo, and then Switchblade Jay White versus Fred Yehi. Then on night 2, Alex Coughlin, the Challenge Series continues. He's going to take on Jonathan Gresham. Should be a great matchup there. And also on night 2 in Philly, there's going to be a big 10-man tag as Fred Rosser, Carl Fredericks, Rocky Romero, Ren Narita, and the DKC will take on all of Team Filthy, Tom Lawler, JR Kratos, Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, and Danny Limelight. Tickets on sales for both Texas and Philly. If you're in those areas, both of these cards look really good, and I would definitely find a way to get to these shows. And then some other news here to close out the news section. This coming up Friday, we have the Rampage Grand Slam. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley, they're going to be taking on Suzuki and Lance Archer in a lights out match. So that's Friday on Rampage, special 2-hour Rampage on TNT. Check that big match out. Defy Wrestling, Kevin Blackwood is going to be taking on Yuya Uemura at Defy's Hell Bent on October 14th at the Lodge Room in Highland Park. So Should be another fun match there for Yumura. Then this past weekend, we had Rev Pro High Stakes 2021, and there was a lot of NJPW involvement on this Rev Pro show. We had Shota Umino, Shooter, defeating Dan Maloney, 14-17. We had Yota Tsuji defeating Mark Haskins, 21-45, and Tsuji debuting a new look, kind of coming out with like a Jesus-looking robe, and then he had like black tights and red boots. Did you guys see Tsuji's new look floating around on Twitter?
I did not. I'm looking it up now. I want to see what this looks like.
I did see this. I just didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the gimmick is supposed to be or what he's working for there. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get some more info on what exactly Tsuji's working with here.
I thought it might be like, I don't know, like a Dragon Ball Z monk sort of thing.
Monk, yeah, like he's like Dragon Ball, like early Krillin. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure myself either.
I just saw it. Oh yeah, that's really weird. What, did he just wrestle in trunks though?
He just wrestled in normal trunks. So yeah, he's
he had red kick pads on.
Yeah, yeah. The trunks look cool. Yeah, I wasn't feeling the rope gimmick. Then we also had a tag title match. The Rev Pro British tag titles and the PWA tag team titles were on the line. Aussie Open, they defeated Destination Everywhere of Connor Mills and Michael Oku. So they are now the double champs. They are PWA and the Rev Pro tag champions. And then the main event for the Rev Pro Undisputed British Heavyweight Championship and the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship, Will Ospreay defeats Ricky Knight Jr. to become the undisputed British Heavyweight Champion in Rev Pro. Post-match angle, Aussie Open comes out and helps Ospreay beat down Ricky Knight and Shooter Umino, and they put on United Empire shirts, so it looks like Aussie Open are officially members of the United Empire. So a question here from Boots and Burns. Now that Aussie Open has joined the United Empire, do you see them eventually making their way to Japan and becoming the designated tag team of the faction?
Yes, I actually do. And I think we've kind of speculated on Aussie Open quite a bit in the past, especially since, you know, when New Japan did some of those Rev Pro shows, they were kind of featured on them. They even had what was basically a tryout match with GOD at a certain point. But with travel restrictions and then COVID and other things like that, it's just never worked out that they've been able to get them in. And I think now with the lack of tag teams and everything like that, and some stuff starting to open up a little bit more, I do think that the push to have them potentially come to New Japan makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Danny?
Yeah, otherwise, why would they do it, right? Otherwise, why would, I mean, unless the idea is just to have people everywhere he goes, Ospreay, but eventually you have to think he's not going to be going everywhere, right? Eventually he's just going to be back in New Japan. Yeah, so I think logically, eventually that'll happen, but who knows what that timetable looks like. I hope it's sooner rather than later, but there's no telling at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Aussie Open, they're a great tag team, and I think there would be, you know, a breath of fresh air in the tag team division in New Japan, especially for those long World Tag League tours. It's always great to get a new, fresh team like Aussie Open, and definitely think it does some interesting things for the United Empire going forward. And we had a question from Just a Little Bear 01. It is New Japan tangential, but thoughts of Aussie Open joining the United Empire in Rev Pro. So we kind of touched on that. Any other thoughts on these guys joining United Empire?
Oh, like you said, they need tags. They need tag teams, right? And tag teams, like a dedicated tag team as opposed to makeshift tag teams, all the more, you know? How many of those do we actually have?
Right.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with that.
So then moving on, we had Suzuki defeating Jonathan Gresham this past weekend at a GCW show. And then there was a post-match angle between Nick Gage and Suzuki, which is setting up a singles match for Suzuki and Nick Gage at GCW's War Ready on October 23rd. Also, Suzuki was announced for Bloodsport on October 24th. So his opponent not announced yet, but Suzuki working GCW those weekends. Then the Monday free match is Tomohiro Ishii versus Kota Bushi from the G1 Climax 28. So a great match to watch to get ready for their rematch this year. And then last news item here, there was a multi-promotional show on September 14th at Korakuen Hall to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Japanese pro wrestling. The show drew 514 fans, and it featured 2AW, Noah, Big Japan, Michinoku Pro, and New Japan, setting a match, and other companies like Dragon Gate, DT, and All Japan sent other wrestlers for a battle royal. The New Japan match was Yuji Nagata and Ryusuke Taguchi defeating Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Master Wato. And then we just have one other question here, some fight questions here for you, young boy. What are your thoughts on Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler 2 this weekend? Better late than never. Is it weird that we're about to have watched them fight before and after their primes, especially when they've been in the same promotions during their primes?
Yes. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, it is weird that, Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler fought in the early days of the UFC, and this is a fight that I've always wanted to see happen again. But the even stranger thing about it is just the fact that Nick Diaz is returning to MMA at all. After, I think the last time he fought was like 2015, 2014. It was against Anderson Silva, and he was pretty infrequent up to that point too. I think he hadn't fought in like 2 years. So, this guy hasn't really been a full-time fighter since before the GSP fight that he had. Whereas like Robbie Lawler kind of like came into his own at the later stages of his career, won the UFC welterweight title. And, now we're getting to see them fight each other. And I don't really know what to expect, to be honest, at all. So, yeah, and they did spend time in Strikeforce, during their primes. And I guess they were both in the UFC briefly for that second stint. But, Nick Diaz likes to scrap. Robbie Lawler likes to scrap. They're two of my favorite fighters of all time. So I'm just glad we're getting it.
Nice.
Yeah, I hope it's not sad, Neither guy's like ancient, so it should be okay, But I hope it's not one of those things that after it actually happens, we're like, oh, some things have been left in the past, Like if they both like failed to pull the trigger because one hasn't fought since 2015, the other one hasn't won in like 5 years. So
that's true. The only thing though is Robbie still always looks game for the most part. But Nick, he's the big question mark. We don't know what to expect, and maybe if Robbie Lawler like blows him out, then it's like, okay, Nick Diaz is done. The thing though, there is the chance that Nick Diaz is just still super limber, still has that gas tank, and he does kind of make Robbie Lawler look bad. But that would be more of a testament to Nick Diaz as opposed to a indictment on Robbie Lawler. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We literally have no idea what to expect. Right, 6 years is a long time. We haven't seen.
Right, we have no idea.
All. Nothing. So who knows?
It probably will be a war, though. Like, just based on who they are and everything, it's most likely that that's the case.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it should be a good fight. Then there's other questions. It feels like it's been forever since a big boxing fight. What are your thoughts on Anthony Joshua versus Alexander this weekend?
I don't know. I felt like that Canelo fight earlier this year was a pretty big fight. Who did he fight again? Oh, yeah, Billy Joe Saunders. That was a big deal. So every Canelo fight's a big deal. But anyways.
How quickly we forget all the Triller events. I can't believe this. What are you talking about? Haven't been any big boxing fights.
Yeah, Vitor Belfort fought Vander Holyfield the other week.
What?
Yo, how about shout out to my boy Anderson Silva just fucking icing Tito Ortiz. Oh, it was bad. Anyways, I've got Usyk in this Anthony Joshua fight, and it's probably wrong. Anthony Joshua, I believe, is favored, and he's got the power and the size and the experience at heavyweight. But I don't know, man. Usyk's a fucking killer. Like, he's just really, really good. And I know everyone's hoping for this Anthony Joshua versus Gypsy King fight to happen, and like I'm not so confident it's ever going to happen. And Joshua's got to get past Usyk, but Usyk's a killer, man. He really, really is. And we'll see. I think I think if Joshua wins, he's going to get seriously tested here. And I mean, Joshua is a great fighter. My biggest problem with Joshua, he has terrible head movement and always has. Even in the second fight with Andy Ruiz, he used really great range and really great angles and good footwork to stay out of range. But when it comes to just standing in front of a guy and moving your upper body and slipping and ducking punches and all that, he can't do it. He never has been able to do it. And he's not good going backwards. Those are his two biggest faults. Other than that, he's almost a completely perfect fighter. He's got power in both his hands. He can fight on the inside. He can fight at range. He's got good footwork, good stamina. He's got a pretty good chin. But he cannot move he's just got terrible head movement, and he gets hit a lot in his fights. And until the Andy Ruiz fight, it felt like nobody was talking about it, but me and my friends have always talked about the fact that he has bad head movement, and Usyk's got dynamite in his hands. I'm not saying Usyk's going to win, but I'm giving him the edge to knock this guy out.
Nice.
How many points does he get for a win?
What?
How many points does he get for a win?
2. You get 2.
Just making sure.
You get 1 for a draw and 0 for a loss.
Got it.
Well, now, last thing we have to do here is a recommended match of the week. So last week, our buddy Chris Sampson recommended Tanahashi versus Naito from the 2013 G1 Finals. And
that's when Naito beat Tanahashi.
Yeah, watched this match before we recorded, and
it's good, but it's different, right?
It's different, but it's also kind of sad because Tanahashi's working on Naito's knees the whole match.
Yeah, it starts out wrapped. Yeah,
the knees are wrapped, and
from there.
Tanahashi's like jacking the knees up the whole match. I'm just like, damn, this is hard to watch. Did you get to rewatch this, Danny?
Yeah, it's a really good match. You know, I don't know if it's 5 stars, but it's really good. And with 2021 eyes, it's also really interesting to watch too, right? Because this is Stardust Genius Naito, right? And so much of the narrative around pre-Dark Ace Naito is about that Wrestle Kingdom 8, you know, losing the vote and having to be in the co-main as opposed to the main, even though it was the world title or the NJPW heavyweight title. Is about that, and about how, you know, like he had bad reception a couple of times. Like that like the narrative now seems to be like it was like a failed experiment of some sort, like Naito, and he had to flee to Mexico, reinvent himself, and come back. And yeah, that happened. I mean, he did go to Mexico, he came back, he's, you know, he changed his whole, you know, shtick up. But that kind of belies that he was really over at this time. Like, the crowd is super hot for him. They all Naito. As the match goes on, it kind of gets more 50-50 with the crowd, but he was really over. And like, it's just interesting to watch now because you don't hear that, you know, like so much of it is about like how he had to become, you know, tranquilo. But he was, you know, he was a really good babyface too, and the crowd really liked him.
Shuyaku. This was, in his defense, though, this was the absolute pinnacle and height of his babyface run. Like, it is completely downhill from this point because within just a couple events, he's going to be getting no responses, and he's actually going to get booed even before that Wrestle Kingdom match, which is crazy.
Yeah, but to hear the story now, you would think he never hit these heights, you know?
No. Yeah,
and like that, he was unsalvageable. Like, yeah, like, you know.
He was a big deal.
Yeah,
totally.
It was just kind of crazy, too, seeing the way he wrestled because he was doing a lot more high flying as well, like the flipping senton. Also, he won with the Stardust press, and yeah, it's a great back and forth matchup. Also, a lot of flavor that we've seen in a normal Tanahashi Naito match. Also, working on the knees, Tanahashi dragon screw, the clover leaf was a big part in the match. Tanahashi hitting the high fly flow to the outside. But that was just seemed like a very big moment where Naito finally got up, hit that Stardust press on Tanahashi. The crowd lost their mind that night when he won and got the big trophy, the big check, the big presentation. It was like, you know, they were trying to make their new guy right then and there. Also, we know it didn't quite work out that way, but in that moment in time, a huge moment for Naito, beating the Ace in a G1 final. It was great stuff. So, Danny, you have the recommended match of the week for us for this week.
Yeah, so I'll give people a break from the G1 just to see something different, right? Which kind of should make you appreciate the G1 matches more. I think, this will be the Yano match, right? But it's not totally. It's I picked the Keiji Muto versus Nobuhiko Takada from the January 4th, 96 Dome show. That's obviously pre-Wrestle Kingdom. I think, Josh, you mentioned that it's the biggest match in history. For New Japan, it was completely sold out and super hot crowd, super hot. They had another match in October of the previous year, which some people rate higher. I wouldn't say this is a 5-star match, but it's just a completely different kind of match, especially for the time. It was Puro versus Shoot. Which is just, at the time when I actually saw it way back when. I didn't see it live, but I saw it on tape, and I was like, what is this? It was so different. It was just like that first Okada Omega. It just hit different. You're like, this is really different. This is something, they're doing something that's
I also think it
unlike.
was title versus title at the time as well.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm not sure about that.
I'd have to look again, but I recall the posters saying title for title, and the belt that they used in the UWFI was the same belt that was donated by Luthez. And they called it the Real World Wrestling Championship. So, and they were challenging all the other champions of the world. So, it was IWGP versus Real World's title, and pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think it aged really well, but with the caveat that it benefited at the time from people not knowing what MMA really looked like, right? All they had was pancreas and that sort of thing. Now that okay, someone can't sit in a heel hook for that long. That's not possible, right? It's a little different on rewatch, but it's still really good for what it is. They work it really well. I love that Takada counter to the figure four that he does. That he just throws his arm up, and he's done it, before and since, obviously. But it's such a simple little thing. Why don't other people do that? That makes sense. But there's a lot of little things like that, and everything looks like a struggle. Everything looks like a struggle, but not in a botchy kind of way. Just kind of. That they're really fighting for position. And it's one of those matches, since it's Shoot versus Puro, that when they actually do a Puro move, like Muda does a spin kick or actually gets a suplex, it gets a huge pop because it's so much harder to get against somebody like Takada. But yeah, it's a really interesting match. It's like I said, the crowd just is absolutely ape for this match. It's great.
So I looked it up, and I'm incorrect on that. It's not title versus title. But the reason I thought it was is because I know for a fact that I've seen programs or posters that said that it was title for title. And I think that maybe they changed it, but because only the IWGP title's on the line here.
Well, I'll tell you, this crowd didn't care. Title versus title or just a single title. They were rabid.
No, because, it's essentially Ace versus Ace. You've got, at that time, the two biggest, and it sounds crazy, but in 1995, UWFI was bigger than All Japan. In fact, they were probably arguably somewhat bigger than New Japan. You've got the two biggest stars of the time. It's basically like Goldberg versus Steve Austin, but in Japan.
Well, I'm looking forward to checking this one out. You guys have been hyping this one up a lot, so definitely looking forward to checking this out.
We've been hyping up the circumstances, Jeremy.
Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't rate this 5, but it's it's just a moment in time that I think
it is a good match, but it's one of those things where it's one of the most important matches in the history of Japanese wrestling. So it'd be like how much do you like Rock and Hogan?
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's an important match to watch because it's how much do you like Hogan Andre?
Right. Well, still down to check it out. So that's the recommended match of the week. Danny, thanks so much for joining us this week. Tell our listeners where they can find you online and plug all your stuff, man.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at NJPWEXT, and my website, NJPWext.us. You go there to find out everything you need to know about the extension that I wrote to enhance NJPW World, like you so so beautifully put at the start of every show. And that's it for me on social media. I think I'm also on Reddit as NJPWEXT, but I hardly ever post.
Thanks. Yeah, if you guys haven't done it, man, there's a reason why we play it every week. The EXT makes New Japan World so much better, so much easier to watch.
So much better.
They should be paying Danny millions and millions of dollars to be working on NJPW World. Maybe one day they will, but definitely check out the EXT. Sign up for the Patreon. Support Danny, a guy that's been giving back to the New Japan community, and great guy to have in the New Japan content world.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. And that's going to wrap things up for us here this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the latest G1 Climax 31 shows. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also in the Wrestling Squared Circle group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy. Just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Also check out the Social Suplex Podcast Network YouTube channel. Starting to put some podcast clips up on that YouTube, so check that out as well. And check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. We have The Grave Consequences with Caleb and Maserati. 8-Bit Suplex with Josh, number 2. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. The Great Match Generator with Danny. And there might be something new coming to the network as well, so stay tuned to that.
Hasn't been approved by me.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review.
And before we go, 2 last reminders. Send us your voice clips for appreciation of the 200th episode. And it would mean a lot to me and my family and my nephew. Go follow his page on YouTube. Fennec, that's FEN_N3, the letter C. Fennec.
And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Itchy Bon?
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
We did it again. Verizon was just named America's most reliable network by Root Metrics for the 16th time in a row, proving once again that nobody builds networks like Verizon builds networks. That's why we're building 5G right. That's why there's only one best network, Verizon. Best and most reliable based on Root Metrics reports from second half 2013 to first half 2021 of 3 operators on all network types combined, not specific to 5G networks.
Check out the latest footwear innovation from Adidas, the Adizero Adios Pro 2, which features carbon fiber energy rods that are both lightweight and precisely tuned for a more anatomical transition. Everything from the ultra-light polyester upper to the re-sculpted midsole and the reinvented outsoles are designed for speed. Visit adidas.com to learn more today.